This conference will now be recorded.
Good evening, Haslet. Good evening, Council. I call this meeting to order, and I do announce there is a quorum present. It's 7 p.m., June 21st, 2021. Need to bow your heads with me and give an invocation. Thank you, Jesus. Thank you, Lord. Thank you for the many gifts you've given us. Almighty God, I pray for your wisdom, your understanding, myself, the council, and the city as we approach this agenda tonight. We ask for the blessings that you have, and thank you for all the many blessings you've given us. In Jesus' name, amen. And if you'd stand with me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, and with liberty and justice for all. I always expect a band to play and people to cheer after that, but item number 3 is citizen participation and comments. I won't read all of that. That's there for all to read themselves, but this is the opportunity for citizens to participate and make comment on any agenda item. I do have 2 that one wants a letter read, and that's been submitted to the city secretary and myself. And the other is Miss Kathy Brandon. And is Miss Brandon present? Well, Miss Brandon. Her comments in her filing paperwork to speak regarding the item on strategic plans, so we'll wait for her to make that comment then, as well as Mr. Rhodes, who submitted a letter to be read. Are there anyone that would like to make any comments? All right, I see none. City Secretary, do you have any other than the 2 I mentioned?
Oh, no, sir, just those 2.
Very good. Item 4, items of community interest. 4A would like to announce that city offices and the Haslet Public Library will be closed Monday, July the 5th, 2021, in observance of Independence Holiday. Item number 5, monthly reports. We have the engineer report, economic development report. Could you go to the next page, please? There we are. Code enforcement, etc. Does anyone have any report they would like to pull, council, and discuss?
This is Councilmember Clark, just doing a mic check.
Very good. Hear you loud and clear.
Thank you.
All right. Go back to the previous page, please. Very good. Okay, go back to your second page. If there's not any items here on the reports that the council would like to make comment to or discuss, then we'll go to item number 6, the consent agenda. We have the regular city council meeting minutes of June 7th and the special council city council meeting minutes of June 14th. Does the council have any corrections or comments to these meeting minutes?
This is Councilmember Rob. Yes, I have a correction for the regular council meeting minutes.
Please, go ahead.
Okay, on the future agenda items, I believe what I said was for the next meeting, the first one in July, I would like to discuss the roles and responsibilities of elected and appointed officials under the Texas Local Government Code for Type A General Law cities. So I think that's what I said, but it didn't come out that way in the minutes. So if you'd correct that, I'd appreciate it.
Very good, and we will have that on our next agenda or for the city council meeting, which is July the 6th on a Tuesday. Is that good for you, Councilmember Rob?
Yes, fine, thank you.
Very good. Any other corrections?
This is Mayor Pro Tem Morrow. I will make a motion to approve the consent agenda with the correction as submitted.
Motion is made to approve the minutes with correction as noted. Is there a second?
Councilmember Rob, I'll second.
There's a second. I'll do a roll call vote. Councilmember Rob,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Morrow,
Aye.
Councilmember Clark,
Aye.
Councilmember Nahara,
Aye.
Councilmember Ricketts.
Aye.
Thank you. Motion approved, 5-0. Item number 7.
At this time, this is Mayor Pro Tem Morrow. I would like to respectfully make a motion to move items 7D, 7E, 7F, and 7G to the beginning of section 7.
What are those items again?
7D, 7E, 7F, and 7G.
Is there a deed restrict dedication? That's a parkway memorandum.
This is Councilmember Clark. I'll second that motion.
So motion has been made and seconded to move items D, E, 7D, E, F, and G to the front of this. Is there I will call make a roll call vote. Or Mayor Pro Tem Morrow,
Aye.
Councilmember Clark,
Aye.
Councilmember Rob,
Aye.
Councilmember Ricketts,
Aye.
Councilmember Nahara.
Aye.
Okay, the first item we take is 7D, discuss, consider, and act regarding a dedication deed for parcel 15 related to the Haslet Parkway project. I do want to make a comment about the Haslet Parkway project as a whole. There's a portion of that I think is excellent, and that's the 170 extension, Haslet Parkway extension off I-35 to interconnect with Intermodal Parkway. That is much needed and would give us much relief on the industrial traffic that we see. But the remainder of that project, I question severely in that we have had an incident in Sedera Ranch that caused by a train, could not get access with emergency vehicles. Also, just the regular everyday traffic, the train still exists and will stop traffic. When we bring 4 lanes up to this intersection of 156 with Haslet Parkway, that's not going away. I know there's been mention of a bridge, but the city/check with regard to a bridge, there's nothing happened yet. There's no concept plan that they even know they can lay this bridge in, which would be a flyover for Sedera Ranch and Fort Worth residents on the west side. That part has not been thought out, and to proceed with all of this business, in my mind, is premature. That said, item 7D. This dedication deed provides the wider right-of-way needed for the Haslet Parkway project as it passes through the area. The previously dedicated right-of-way for the TAP Trail project exists. There are no other separate agreements related to this parcel. And we have deed restrictions or dedicated deeds. And who needs to speak to this? Thad, is that you?
Yes, Mayor, that is. You've actually covered that part well. Parcel 15 is one of the smallest ones we have because the TAP Trail, when it came through, there was already right-of-way dedicated for that parcel. So Hillwood did not request any additional agreements or documents related to this parcel. And Mayor and Council, I'll answer any questions you may have, but this one's one of the more simple ones we have.
This is a council member Nahed. I have a question.
Yes, sir.
Which one of these items begin beyond the Intermodal Parkway? I guess going westbound of Intermodal Parkway.
All of the parcels that will come before council will be west of that connection. We actually have dedication, and part of that phase 1 that we discussed, construction, goes all the way short of Schoolhouse Road. So that will, everything you will see, council member, will be west of that intersection.
So just to be clear, 7D, 7E, 7F, and 7G are all west of Intermodal Parkway. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Correction, 7G is actually the AFA, council member, but D, E, and F are all west of that intersection.
Say that again. Can you explain the 7G one again, please?
7G is, and I think Rob Alban will take care of that one. That is not a right-of-way piece. That is an agreement for engineering for construction phase services. So it's related to the project, but it is not one of the 3 parcels being considered tonight.
Okay. So, like you said, you said that Mayor Halsey explained this pretty well, where, you know, the west of Intermodal Parkway, there really is no plan to connect that bridge going over, and it would be just a pass through for really the residents of Sedera Ranch. And we have not seen the plan, you know, consisting of this bridge and what it's going to do. From what I heard, it's going to bypass all of Haslet and take away some of those businesses that are there if they do go through with this plan. Is that correct?
Councilmember, I apologize. I was just speaking to the agenda item on the parcel 15. There is no schematic. The mayor is correct there. As far as the rest, the environmental assessment looked at it, and I would not want to, this is not the forum for trying to go through the environmental assessment and how that was viewed on stacking traffic. I would need a lot longer to prepare such a presentation.
Okay, understood. I just want to say that Mayor Halsey makes a good point. They have no plan, going westbound of Intermodal Parkway. And I asked this question before, would that divert the traffic, specifically the 18-wheeler traffic, to I-35? And I think the answer is that they did not know, they could not control it. So with that said, I believe we should table this, put more thought into it before we go forward. But I want to have a plan in place going westbound of Intermodal Parkway.
This is Mayor for tomorrow.
Is that a motion?
Yes, I motion that we table these items until there is a plan going westbound of Intermodal. This doesn't stop the project now, I don't think, but I think there should be a well thought out plan going west of Intermodal Parkway. And that should include the traffic from the 18-wheelers. We want to avoid that. That's a big complaint that you see on social media, and I think that's something we should address. Table these items and put more thought into this going forward.
Motion is made to table these items, and these items being 7, D, E, F, and G. Did I get that correct, Councilman Nahira?
That's correct.
Is there a second? There is
Councilmember Ricketts, I'll second.
There is a second. Okay, there is a second. I'll take a roll call vote. Councilmember Robb.
Nay.
Councilmember Nahira.
Aye.
Councilmember Ricketts.
Aye.
Councilmember Clark.
Nay.
Mayor Pro Tem Morrow.
Nay.
Okay. These items are still up for discussion. We're on 7B.
This is Mayor for tomorrow. What I was going to add is that, yes, with the,
Excuse me. I wanted to ask a question of Thad. Thad, is it this one here that has language in here about the, and it has to do with no deed warranty and reference to Queen Elizabeth? Is this one?
Mayor, I'm getting a lot of feedback. I think I understood your question about the language to Queen Elizabeth. I would defer to Rob Alabon. He has reviewed these and the title company, but yes, sir, this one does have that language, revision language near the end of the deed.
Okay, I had a citizen, Miss Sandra Smith, call me with regard to this particular item, and I'd be remiss not to mention it, is that there is no deed warranty on this property, of which WPRR has, is this WPRR that's dedicated to the city, correct?
No, that is not correct, Mayor. This is a warranty deed. The habendum clause is at the end of the warranty deed, which the grantor does warrant this to the city forever and to defend the title to the city. So this does have a warranty in it. The section you're referring to, or that Ms. Smith was referring to, is language that was put in here that basically says if the city does not use this property for the right-of-way, then the property will revert back to the property owner. And in order to include that kind of reversion provision, the law says that you have to tie it to some life in being, which is why there's a reference to 21 years after the death of the last survivor of any descendant of Queen Elizabeth II of England. That was something I learned in law school, and I haven't actually seen it in practice from anybody other than the Hillwood entities and their lawyers that put that in every one of their deeds, because they want to retain the right of reversion if the property ever is not used for the purposes for which they're granting it to the city. But otherwise, it is a straightforward dedication deed of the right-of-way to the city at no cost. And it is a warranty deed and provides the city with everything it needs for this project.
I think that was her original concern about the right of reversion when Burlington Northern Santa Fe granted it to Hillwood, which would be WP or WPRR.
Yes, sir. That's one of the Hillwood entities, as I understand it.
All right then. Councilman Mayor Pro Tem Morrow, you had something.
Yes, thank you. I was just going to add on to Councilmember Nahara that I do think the intermodal will help with the 18-wheeler traffic, but I also think the accessibility going east to west should help with some of the traffic concerns that we all experience north and south on 156. So with that, I'd like to make a motion to accept the dedication deed for parcel 15 related to the Haslet Parkway project.
Motion is made to accept this deed. Is there a second?
Councilmember Clark, second.
Would you scroll back up to the original page or first page of this item? This is a dedication deed parcel 15, and there is a second. Is that right, Councilmember Clark?
That's correct.
Okay.
Mayor
Motion-
Halsey, is there still a chance for further discussion?
There is.
This question, if I may, Mayor Halsey, I'd address to Thad on 7D, 7E, and 7F. Sort of goes to our conversation we had last month last meeting on this. And they said that if we had any type of issues to the Haslet Parkway, everyone was against it. But my question sort of goes with the same with this as Councilmember Nahara, is if these are west of intermodal, and we've said that we've already had these environmental studies done, and if they come in and actually decide to build a bridge, I heard discussions this last time that would put a stop to it because we would have to redo the environmental studies. Are these parcels in any way impacted by the potential bridge that they're thinking about putting? That we got corrected by Mr. Quinn sending out the stuff that they are looking at this bridge. I don't want this to move forward and us now have a stop then.
Councilmember, in answer to the question fully, there is no schematic, and as I understand it from COG, they cannot even begin an environmental assessment. They could do schematics, but we haven't seen anything. At least my office has not. So these parcels are only related to the Haslet Parkway project. They can't reopen our environmental assessment. They would have to do their own separate environmental assessment. This one is only related to this project. This environmental assessment is so defined that we can't add openings along this route. We can move median cuts and openings, but we can't even add openings until this road is given over to the city of Haslet. So I can't say that these parcels on the theoretical bridge that hasn't seen a schematic, and I know it's being discussed, I cannot say that they would not ultimately be impacted, but that it won't change the deadline for the build grant. So again, those have to be separated. This project must be completed before they ever try and do anything related to a bridge over that intersection. Does that answer your question?
Pat, are you telling us that they have to build this road, tie it into 156, then they'll think about the bridge?
Absolutely. Yes, sir. It's the
And
language of the bill. It's the language in the grant.
Horse. This whole project was never thought out. Okay. Any other discussion?
Yeah, Mayor Halsey, this is Councilman Rob. I have to disagree. It was thought out. We looked at a bridge, the possibility of a bridge. the estimates that our engineers that provided to us was like, there's no way that we could afford to build a bridge and with this grant that we have. This is a grant from the Federal Highway Administration, has specific rules. A bridge was never part of it. It would be nice if we someday somebody could provide a bridge, but I wouldn't hope that Haslet wouldn't have to pay for it. But this project will provide needed access to the schools and located to the west of 156, including a potential high school over there. That's another reason we put the road to provide another over there. Hopefully a train won't block them both. But this is also good for eastbound traffic as well for the rest of Haslet, for easier access to 35 and 170. So it has a lot of benefit. Yes, it would be nice if it was the bridge, but there's no room, and it was never part of the project.
I understand that, and absolutely, but it's not going to do any good. In fact, it will compound the problem of backups when the train is still there. That train's not going away. Never will.
Mayor Halsey, this is Councilmember Ricketts one more time. I have one more question then. As being a fiduciary for the citizens of Haslet, you stated that this was grant money for Haslet Parkway, so there was no dollars associated with Haslet going to this parkway?
No, sir, that is, there is EDC money being committed to this project. They've committed $6 million in bond funds. It is, and there's also a TERS that will pay from development that occurs within the zone over a period of time, and that is 50% of the revenue that is generated within that zone.
So that goes, my next question then, Thad, is if there's money coming from the citizens of Haslet going towards this project, and yet we do say 6 months after we complete the Haslet project, they come in and they want to make a bridge and we have to tear out a third, or not even a third, smaller portion of this. Is that a good spend of taxpayer and Haslet dollars if we don't know what the schematic's going to be and we may be spending $6 million that we should be looking something and trying to work right now?
I'm going to say that's a call outside my scope, council member. A lot of work went into this. I don't have any personal skin in it. It's just work. But the project is one whole project. It can't be separated out or the grant will go away because it was for regional mobility. If the $20 million goes away, we have not found out exactly how we would unravel that. I understand your question, but the entire almost $60 million project is viewed as one regional mobility project. That's how the environmental assessment was run. That's how the public hearings and public meetings were presented. And that's the project that was awarded. So I understand your question. Again, we began this process without a bridge. So trying to, something that has come up in the last couple of months, adjust for that. Understanding that the entire project has been let and it can't be separated out. I don't know how to fully answer your question.
I would like to make a comment to that, is that the project, the original project is the same route, same design, was proposed 20 years ago. It had a bridge. It was completely elevated, and they knew they had to have a bridge over 156 in those tracks. Whoever proposed this, and I know it didn't come out of Haslet. It was given to Haslet. Here's a design, and the whole process of this latest one was in a race to get this money. Now I can understand that may be in itself worthy, but it was not looked at from the aspect of a very thoughtful design and the needs of both Haslet and Fort Worth.
Mayor Halsey,
Yes.
sorry, you cut off. I don't know if everyone else it cut off on them, but I couldn't hear a portion of what you said. But I just want to make one last comment. If this thing was approved before the bridge was even considered, but we're going to continue on with it, and just like Councilmember Ricketts pointed out, we may have to tear this thing out, a third of it. So for the other council members, just consider this, and again, I motion that we, sorry, I can't motion again, but just take that into consideration, how this is going to impact us, and will we have to pay for further work down the road when they do decide to put in a bridge?
I don't know about you. I don't know about you, but I would never vote for that.
Well, is any other further discussion? If not, I'll call for the vote. This is to approve item 7D, which is dedication deed, parcel 15. Councilmember Ricketts,
Nay.
Councilmember Nahara,
Nay.
Councilmember Clark,
Aye.
Councilmember Morrow.
Aye.
Excuse me, I meant Mayor Pro Tem. Councilmember Robb.
Aye.
Okay, motion passes 3-2. Next item, please. That would be 7E. Discuss, consider, and act regarding a memorandum of agreement, dedication deed, and payment authorization related to parcel 22 for the Haslet Parkway project. Thad, again, is that yours?
Yes, sir. If there are.
Please explain the payment authorization.
Yes, sir. This parcel is part of Westwood's development. They actually put money towards the entire project several years ago, but this parcel was not included, so we would be acquiring this. This has been discussions ongoing for about 2.5 years that the EDCs would contribute and pay for the right-of-way for the project because it's an eligible cost, and it would keep it from hitting the city's general fund, which is, again, the money that's generated from your property taxes and those types of things. So the authorization would be to, and I will take this to the EDC on Wednesday if this is approved tonight, and they would authorize that payment. As a TxDOT managed project, we have had to follow very closely their notifications, their appraisal and review appraisal of land to make sure we are acquiring it at least fair market. I mean, people are not required to accept that offer, but we are not permitted to go in and lowball or act in a way that is not transparent on all these parcels. Again, we're not relocating any residences related to this parcel or this project. So again, this is just one parcel that's needed. This tract is actually west of 156. And again, Westwood had put money in long ago as part of the Laterra agreement because they had to make offsite improvements that would widen Avondale Haslet from their subdivision all the way to 156. So again, this was just one piece of a big puzzle that was put together related to that. I'll answer any questions.
Do you have a map showing this so we can show? And Westwood, is that the Laterra developer or owner?
Yes, sir. That is the owner. Katrina has the map up. If you can see the Avondale Haslet Road designation in your upper right-hand corner, this is just one little piece. You can see the outlined point of beginning. It's a tiny sliver, but it has high value because of where it's located. This is also just west of La Terra Grill. It's that parcel that's just west.
This negotiation was at a negotiated price of 80,000 plus for a product of condemnation.
I'm sorry, sir. I didn't
Was this
understand.
Is everyone hearing me? Am I cutting out?
No, I don't
Everybody
think I just don't think I understood the question that time, sir.
This $80,000 will be split between type A and type B EDCs. Was that a negotiated price with the owner or a product of condemnation?
It is a negotiated price. Again, it was the initial appraised value that we had to offer as part of the initial negotiations. So there is no condemnation on that.
That answers my questions. Thank you. Anybody have any other questions? Is there a motion to be made?
This is Mayor. Can you hear me okay? This is Mayor Pro Tem Morrow. I would like to make a motion to approve the memorandum of agreement, dedication deed, and payment authorization related to parcel 22 for the Haslet Parkway project.
Motion's been made for the dedication deed of parcel 22. Is there a second?
Councilmember Rob, second.
There is a second. Call for the vote. Mayor Pro Tem Morrow.
Aye.
Councilmember Robb.
Aye.
Councilmember Nahira.
Nay.
Councilmember Clark.
Aye.
Councilmember Ricketts.
Nay.
Okay. Item 7F. Discuss, consider, and act regarding a developer agreement, memorandum of developer agreement, and dedication deed related to parcel 23 for the Haslet Parkway project. And that it's yours, and I would ask you, this reads differently from the others with regard to memorandum developer agreement and as well as developer agreement. Can you go into a little bit of explanation for that?
Yes, sir. One, it's Hillwood, so there's always going to be something a little different when we work with Hillwood. Their process, when they've done this 2 other times on this project, when they dedicate the right-of-way through a donation or dedication deed, there are certain stipulations that have carried with the agreements that were set forth about 2 years ago. Those relate to zoning. Again, there's no cost for them to come in and request zoning changes. It is an agreement that is reached because they are dedicating at no cost to the city land that is valued at $652,140. Additionally, they are agreeing to a front foot assessment, is what it is called, of $600 a front foot. That is eventually that will help pay for the water and sewer on the project. Am I echoing? I'm seeing cupped ears.
We are getting feedback. IT, Ken, is that something that you can address?
If you are not speaking, please mute your microphone.
Yeah.
You just muted all.
Unmute.
No.
Oh, I was muted too. And then the other piece of this, I didn't finish the $600 per linear foot. Water and sewer is part of this project. That was not part of the grant. The federal grant was for a road, but water and sewer was included in the project. So what the staff did is negotiate assessments for the property owners, the bigger property owners who would benefit the most along this route. I think the total now is almost $3 million. So at final plat, that assessment will be charged to the developer, and that will go to pay the water and sewer costs for the project. The front foot assessments actually exceed the current estimated cost of the water and sewer by about $400,000. So that would be a net gain to the city to use in other areas for water and sewer improvements. The memorandum of developer agreement is, again, unique to Hillwood. That is what they request be filed with the county, not the entire agreement. They don't like all of their big agreements filed down there at the courthouse. So the memorandum of developer agreement basically summarizes that this giant document exists, and here's, again, so that it's in the records of the court. There is one potential cost on this one is temporary and permanent fencing for cattle. That should be handled by the contractor, but there are some areas where the fencing plan was incomplete if cattle were not currently being run. And I do not recall if cattle were on this tract or not. So if it's in the contract, we will not be charged that money, and the contractor will put the fencing up as they go through. But if it is not, then Hillwood will put that up and charge the EDCs split up to $7,000 for $3,500 for temporary and $3,500 for permanent fencing. And
So
I'll
our
answer any questions.
in-kind cost to this was waiver of any zoning changes. Is that correct?
No, sir. I do
You
not
said
believe
that
so.
we made an agreement with regard to.
On zoning changes, if they request a zoning change, there is no fee. And Rob, is that one in this one? I'm going to look for Rob for a little help on this to make sure it's the same as all the rest.
I'm just double checking that. That is correct. City has agreed to waive the administrative application fee if a zoning change is requested for this property. So that is, I guess, part of the city's consideration in exchange for receiving $600 some odd thousand worth of right of way at no cost, plus $300 and some thousand towards the water and sewer line.
Thank you. Is there any other discussion? There's no discussion. Does anyone want to make a motion on this?
This is Councilmember Clark. I move that we accept the developer agreement, memorandum of developer agreement, and dedication deed related to parcel 23 for the Haslet Parkway project.
Would you scroll to the top of this, to the agenda item? A motion has been made to accept the memorandum of developer agreement, parcel 23, and developer agreement, Alliance Haslet FM 156 parcel. Yes, I got that. All right. Is there a second?
Councilmember Rob seconds.
There's a second. Any other discussion? There is none. I call for the vote. I'll make a roll call vote. Mayor Pro Tem Morrow,
Aye.
Councilmember Ricketts,
Nay.
Councilmember Nahara,
Nay.
Councilmember Robb,
Aye.
Councilmember Clark.
Aye.
Motion passes 3-2. Thank you. Item 7G. Discuss, consider, and act on approval of amendment number 2 to the Advance Funding Agreement with TxDOT for engineering project management services related to Haslet Parkway Intermodal Parkway project. So Thad, I would ask you to, this is amendment number 2. Evidently, there was an amendment number 1. If you could just summarize that and then bring us into this amendment. And then what else you see that needs to be explained. Thank you.
Mayor, on this one, I think I'm punting to Rob Alabon. This was engineering design, and I was not involved on the AFA amendment number 1. I'm here to answer any questions I have knowledge on, but I don't have any on this.
Mayor, I'll do my best on this. It's not really my issue either, but I did prepare the staff report, so I'll certainly go over that. The council approved the original advanced funding agreement with TxDOT relating to the design engineering services for this project. That was amended in July of 2016 to increase federal funding related to the engineering of the project. That's what I remember about amendment number 1. There may be others on staff who can elaborate on that if y'all need more information on that. What's
Mr.
proposed?
Quinn, sorry, Mr. Quinn, can you share anything about amendment number 1?
And this was included into the transportation improvement program. It was to fund the original, I think it's 3.2 million that was put in that program to fund the engineering costs at that time of the road. The city went through an RFP process and selected Kimley Horn to do the design. Subsequently, what has happened is that they have designed the project and they need to do the construction phase services for the project, answer any questions regarding the design, resolve any issues that may come up. Our cost is $75,000 of the $300,000, which is it's better than paying $300,000 because somebody's got to do it, and I certainly don't want the city to spend $300,000 on the construction phase services. We have $150,000 in Capital Fund 30, so we are only going to spend about half of that. But yeah, the original AFA was to get the 3.2 million in place to hire the original design engineer on the project, who was still Kimley Horn, and they need to be doing the construction phase services because they did the design and they can answer any questions and resolve the issues that may come up.
Mayor Holt,
Right, so this is
Councilmember Ricketts.
Yes, please, but I want to, so this is effectively hiring a project manager then. Is that correct?
Yes, it's $300,000 contract on $38 million project. And
I'm asking, is this effectively hiring a project manager?
No, this is not hiring a project manager. This is for any construction phase services where the engineer needs to provide information or redraw something due to construction on field, on site conditions that during any construction project, stuff like that comes up, or we need them to tell us where a drive entrance can go, those kind of things. So this is to pay for those construction phase services of the design engineer.
Thank you. Councilmember Ricketts, you have something?
That sort of leads right into my question, Rob, is, again, we had an RFP out there. We actually got awarded it to Kimberly Horn, it sounds like, with the first council. I guess that's my question. Are these all related to engineering changes, or was this part of the scope that we requested in the first part of the bid? And this is growth upon that scope of things that they didn't understand? Or I'd like to understand that a little bit better.
My understanding is the original scope did not include construction phase services, and that this amendment is to cover construction phase services that are needed from the engineering firm.
So it's additional scope over and above what we asked for in our RFP.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Thad or Rob Alabon, if you want to continue with your presentation, go ahead.
Jim covered everything, sir, that I was going to cover. That is for these additional or design phase services. At the cost, this is an estimated cost of an additional $375, of which $300,000 come from federal funding. So the city's exposure is potentially $75,000, of which the funds are already budgeted. So I think Jim did a good job.
Understood. Council, do you have any other questions? Any further discussion? If not, is there a motion?
This is Councilmember Rob. I'll make a motion to approve amendment number 2 to the advanced funding agreement with TxDOT for engineering services related to Haslet Parkway Intermodal Parkway project as presented.
Motion is made to approve this amendment number 2, engineering for engineering services, construction engineering services. Is there a second?
Councilmember Clark seconds.
I'll call for a roll call vote. First, is there any other discussion after this second? Motion and second. There is none. Roll call vote. Mayor Pro Tem Morrow,
Aye.
Councilmember Clark,
Aye.
Councilmember Nahara,
Nay.
Councilmember Robb,
Aye.
Councilmember Ricketts.
Aye.
Motion passes 4-1. Next item, please. We'll go back at the top. This is 7A. So council, what I got before you now and explaining to the audience that we have out there, this is the revised calendar for a budget calendar. And that would allow for an election. And the election would be needed if our tax rate would exceed the 3.5 threshold set by state legislators. The reason being in that, in going through the budget or our staffing, there's immediate need for 6 additional staff members, 4 of them in public works. 1 for building inspection and help free up Mr. Tedford to do building inspection as well as code enforcement. That's one of his tasks. And then also with the many tasks that have grown due to technology, which would be our audio visual, computer systems, all things IT, our web page, which is sadly we have not the manpower to keep it up. It had not been. Event marketing, which is social media, hard materials, web page, water quality reports, which would be in web page and printed materials. This position would all help towards that. So this gives us the option. We will prepare the budget and proceed with our workshop, but all in the ability to be able to call for an election, which is August 16th. Is that right, Ms. Lamb? August 16th?
Yes, I believe so.
Okay, so August 16th is the deadline for us to be able to call for an election. But also you can choose not to. This, if passing this, I ask that you would, it gives us the ability to do that and meet the present and growing needs we have for personnel. Any questions?
So this is Mayor Pro Tem Morrow. So this is like an accelerated budget calendar to kind of have the opportunity, if we do need an election, we'll get everything done in time. Is that correct?
Yes, it is.
And how does that affect, I'm just curious, the budget workshop that we have set up for the second week in July? Will that change those dates?
Marcy, you want to address that? And Mr. Quinn as well. I know you both we've all looked at this.
Yes. If you'll remember last year, we kind of presented these same, two calendars. And looking at the original calendar that you approved, I still believe that we can have the workshops at the same time in July. You would still have an opportunity at your July 19th meeting to cover anything you didn't cover in your workshops, the 12, 13, and 14. And what would move up is there are some publication requirements that we would need to call hearings and do some things ahead of time. If you called those hearings, then if you decided not to, in the end, after your workshops, like say tonight you decided to follow the accelerated calendar, but then after your workshops you decided not to, then I still think you would have the ability to fall back on the original calendar for your publication dates. But if you made it to the workshops and you didn't have the accelerated calendar in place, then you would have missed the opportunity to publish for some of your hearings. But so in other words, and Rob can correct me if I'm wrong, you can go ahead and post if you decided you wanted to consider increasing the tax rates. You could go ahead and post for the accelerated legal deadlines for your hearings on your budget and your tax rate. Then have your workshops. Once again, if you remember on both of these calendars, you would be making decisions about what's in your budget before we actually have the valuations from the Tarrant County Appraisal District to be able to even calculate your rates. So basically you would just be firming up at the workshops what you wanted included in the budget. And then on the accelerated calendar on August 16th, you would be adopting the budget, giving your approval for the tax rate and all the other items on the accelerated calendar. If you decided not to increase the tax rate, you would be, if you vote tonight to follow the accelerated calendar and entertain that idea, you would just be further ahead. So you can follow the accelerated calendar. I think the way I looked at the deadlines, I think you can still hold your workshops on the original dates, but you would be, it is going to be a tight turnaround. We normally get those valuations around the 25th of July. It'll probably be the 26th of July, which is a Monday. It takes about a week to 2 weeks, depending on how fast we get the information. I run the calculations, Tarrant County runs the calculations. We look and fine tune and make sure that we're both in agreement, and that takes a little bit of time. And so it'll be a tight turnaround from that part of the calendar, but that always is a tight turnaround in that part of the calendar. So I think it's all doable if you wanted to follow the accelerated calendar. We just have to make sure that we meet all the deadlines for the publications. We would have to make sure that we can get the budget in front of you as soon as possible, so you have time to review it.
I wanted to make a comment, Marcy. You're saying that we wouldn't get the current appraisals until later, and so we would be establishing a rate, but we would not have the appraisal. Is that correct? Would you go over that one more time?
Yes, you would basically be publishing a hearing on your tax rate prior to knowing what your calculations are. So you would not really know what your no new revenue rate is, which is what everything else is based on. So you'd be making an assumption by following the accelerated calendar that you were going to raise the tax rate, and it would be over 3.5% above your no new revenue rate, which you won't really know what it is.
Let me ask you a question. Okay, the no new revenue is the key component. That's our limiting factor, is it not? It's not necessarily the tax rate. It's the no new revenue.
That's correct. The no new revenue rate is what everything is based on. Your voter approval rate is 3.5% over that rate. All the other rates use that as its base. And so your valuation is the main component of that. We expect our valuation will go up, which means normally that our no new revenue rate would automatically decrease because there's more value to spread that tax rate over. So
Now, I'm making a distinction between the actual tax versus tax rate. So no new revenue, I'm not speaking about a no new revenue rate, tax rate number. I'm talking about the actual revenue. So as we have the existing budget that our balance might be in the neighborhood of, say, $4 million, not to be exact here. So the no new revenue would be limited from that amount, correct?
the no new revenue rate would only be on the property tax portion of the budget. It would not be based on your total expenditure budget. It would only be based on.
Well, no, I understand. So I misspoke that. So it would be the no new revenue relative to ad valorem values anyway.
Yes, the no new revenue rate is, I think maybe I understand what you're saying. It's not that the no new revenue rate would be the same tax rate as we have this year. It would be the equivalent of the same tax dollars that were raised this year. Is that your question?
Yes, so our real limiting factor is the increase of tax dollars.
Yes. In order to increase the tax dollars, you would have to.
Yeah. The rate will fluctuate according to that no new revenue dollars limit.
I'm sorry, can you repeat the question?
Nonetheless, I think I understand. Our real limiting factor is the dollars of new revenue. And the tax rate is a calculation based on that.
Yes, the tax rate would be based on the new valuation. It would use the new valuation and determine the rate based on what would basically give us the same dollar revenue as we had this year from ad valorem tax.
And we fully expect that to drop, the new rate.
We fully expect that to drop.
Okay. Anyway, Council,
yes, please go ahead. I just want to ask a question, Marcy, real quick, because the way I'm hearing this too is that, the reason we want to do this and get the publications out early is because we're expecting it to go over the 3.5%. And if that's the case, is it going to have to go to a vote? And when do we expect that vote? And would we have to have an interim budget before we went to that if we had to increase that to wait for the vote?
Okay. No, we're not expecting it to go over, we're expecting the no new revenue rate to be basically the same dollars as we got this year. Based on the no new revenue rate, there's a cap in the state law that would not allow the council to adopt a ad valorem tax rate higher than 3.5% over the no new revenue rate without going to a vote. So if you feel that you have needs that would be greater than the dollars that you would receive from a 3.5% increase over the no new revenue rate, then you must call an election or you're limited at the 3.5%.
Let me answer your question. So Rick,
if you call for the election, if you call for the election and the election does not pass, then you're limited back to the 3.5% at the voter approval tax rate.
I think you're asking, do we expect that our revenue rate or would exceed 3.5%? Is that your question?
I'm asking why we're having to go through this advanced and this extended, because again, it sounds like you're saying we're not going to do that, but yes, we're actually going to put ourselves in a position just in case it does.
Now, what we calculate now, I have mentioned that we're 6 employees short, and that cost, including benefits, is approximately $400,000.
Mm-hmm.
Employee salary and wages can only be supported by ad valorem.
Mm-hmm.
Now, with our current budget, our current tax rate, we are generating a little bit, about 160,000 in excess. And so the amount we have to make up is, you have that in front of you, Marcy?
I don't actually have that worksheet. The amount was roughly about $260,000 that we would be in the hole operations wise. So our operating revenues would be less than our operating expenditures if we added those positions by about $260,000. And in order to raise those types of funds, more than likely you would need to, well, most probably you would need to have a tax rate that it would exceed your no new revenue rate by 3.5%. So the only way to be able to exceed that cap would be by a vote of the people. So it's not the rate that is determining whether you would need to go to a vote. It's the amount of dollars that you're trying to raise through your ad valorem tax. And whenever your property values go up, it just automatically dilutes your tax rate. And then the no new revenue rate is just basically named correctly. It doesn't really provide you with any additional dollars. It just spreads it out among the value of all the properties. So if you're trying to increase your budget more than 3.5% over the prior year, then you'd be, you know, if you have needs that are 11% higher, then you're only able to increase it 3.5%, then you're going to have to give something up. Does that make sense, Councilmember Ricketts? Have I answered your question?
And that's where I was going, is the aspect of if we don't get there, then we're going to have to do some balancing of the budget, some other areas.
Well,
Yes,
there's not another way, Councilman Ricketts.
So that goes back to my other question then, Mayor Halsey, is if there's no other way and we can't balance it in other directions, and so that are we going to expect it to go, and it needs to go to a vote of the people then?
That's what we're saying, is we're putting that counter out there, because you will see if we hire, council approves to hire these people, adopt the budget to hire 6 additional employees, 4 for public works, 1 for inspections, and 1 for admin, then we'll need to generate a minimum of $256,000. That exceeds the revenue that we are allowed or could obtain by this 3.5%. If
So
we
that-
look at, if
So
we
then
look at,
that's the question is when will this vote happen and how will we approve the budget this year? Will we have to go with an interim budget until we have that vote from the citizens?
the vote would occur November 2nd. That's when the election would be held. And the interim budget question, Marcy, would you address that? Can you address that?
I think I might have to defer to Rob on that. My assumption would be that you would basically continue with the budget that you had adopted for the current year, or that you would follow an interim budget basically that would not exceed. But there being only, 1 month of the year that would have elapsed by the time you have the election, that shouldn't be difficult to do. You wouldn't exceed your budget in 1 month, but you would more than likely not want to approve any of the additional items in your budget until after the election.
Right, I would expect that as well, is that we maintain our current expenditure on this budget, and we do not, we cannot hire anybody unless this new rate is approved.
That's correct. Part of the calculations in our budget is trying to measure the difference between what our maintenance and operation costs are that are funded by our revenues. A lot of our revenues in this current time period are inflated because we have additional sales tax, we have higher permits and fees because of the additional construction that is occurring in the city. But that is not sustainable. It will not continue. So if you are particularly going to add personnel or any other maintenance costs that is going to reoccur, you pretty much need to have it covered by your M&O rate, because you would not be able to count on, sales tax per se, or your permit level to continue at those same, high levels that we've been seeing. So whenever you're looking at personnel, or you had any kind of ongoing maintenance costs, such as a software license or, something like that, that's not a capital project, then it needs to be funded within your O&M tax rate.
Which that is tied, that's the ad valorem.
Correct.
Yeah. Any further discussion?
Yeah, this is Councilman Rob. I support what you're trying to achieve here. At least we'd have the option, if we needed it, if we got there and with the original calendar, we wouldn't be able to call this election. Now, as far as I know, we've never had a tax rate election in the history of Haslet, and I cannot imagine, frankly, one ever passing. But this is the position the legislature put us in, and I guess we might need to try, and by adopting this advanced or this other schedule, we'll at least give ourselves the chance to make that happen. And whether or not it will, who knows? But that'd be the citizens' call. The legislature did not do us any favors in 2019 when they implemented this. It used to be 8% before a petition could call for an election. Now it's 3.5%, and you must have an election. So it's changed drastically. And by the way, if you think these tax rates are just simple arithmetic calculations, you're very wrong. I thought that for a while, and then And then the finance director sent me the copy of the form that they use to calculate these rates. It's worse than any IRS form you ever had a nightmare about. It's very difficult. You'll see. Maybe she'll provide us, everyone, with one of these because it's horrible.
Well, that's why we have Marcy Land. Is that, you going to turn that into a motion, Councilmember Roth?
This Councilmember Clark, I just had a question.
Yes.
So looking at the expedited schedule, it shows that our budget workshops would be next Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. So are we, by approving this schedule, are we pushing up our budget workshops to those 3 days? Or do we need to make a specific motion that states that we will still have our budget workshops on the 12th, 13th, and 14th, I believe is the date?
Right. When I prepared this workshop or this calendar, I did foresee having the workshops earlier since we approved the other calendar originally, and now looking at this one now, I don't believe we could make next week for the budget workshop. So the kind of the front half of this calendar was kind of our interim, work schedule. And then the things that we definitely need to meet are the publication requirements. So I still believe that by, July the 20th, we would have to publish notice of the public of the budget hearing. July 9th, we would have to have the budget filed with the city secretary. And those would be our first legal deadlines we'd have to meet. And I believe we could meet those. The draft budget was given to the mayor and the city administrator today, and it's being reviewed. And I think that we can file with the city secretary. When you're filing, you're just filing the proposed budget up until your date and your adoption on the 16th. The proposed budget can be massaged and looked at, and decisions made, and deliberations can occur. And as I said, I think we can still have the workshops on the original dates. So if you adopt the calendar tonight, I would say that you're adopting the accelerated portion that affects your legal deadlines more than the interim work schedule.
The interim work schedules are adjustable. We are, this is giving us the hard dates, are filing with the state.
Okay, thank you. No, I wanted to clarify because it makes sense that we want to make sure that we have those legal dates in case we need to act on those. But I just wanted to make sure so there wasn't any confusion that at the end that we know exactly when our budget workshops are.
And these are adjustable. I understand. We all understand that, the budget workshops. Any other questions?
Just to confirm, we're just voting to allow this to come up as a vote. So the voters are ultimately going to decide whether we have a tax increase or not. Is that correct?
That's correct. This is a voter decision.
Understood.
Mayor Halsey and council members, this is Kathy Brandon. I don't know if it's time for public discussion or not.
But if you have a comment, you may make it.
Yes, sir. I would, as a citizen of Haslet for 35 years, I realize that our tax rate is less than 30 cents per $100 of value. We've had higher tax rates in previous years. I believe I looked and it was, a matter of fact, 2018. And I, as a citizen, believe that this is a growing city. We need to be able to meet the requirements and our obligations that we're committed to do. And I would be in favor of voting for this.
Thank you, Ms. Brandon. Anybody else? Like council? Is there a motion?
Mayor Holsey, this council member Ricketts, I'll try to make a motion here. I move that we accept the adopted budget calendar for 2022 to allow for this expedited calendar to allow for the publication dates.
So I'm going to rephrase that slightly and you tell me if I'm correct. So Councilmember Ricketts made a motion to adopt the budget calendar 2021-2022. Adopted rate exceeds voter approval rate. Just reading the attachment here and what that is. Is there a second?
I second that.
There is a second. Any further discussion? I'll call for a vote. Councilmember Ricketts.
Thank you.
Aye.
Councilmember Robb.
Aye.
Councilmember Nahira.
Aye.
Councilmember Clark.
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Morrow. Mayor Pro Tem Morrow. Is Mayor Pro Tem Morrow with us?
I don't see her on the list here anymore.
Mayor Holsey, I saw her have to leave. It looked like she left the conversation here about 10 minutes ago.
Okay, please note that Councilmember Morrow is not with us. That we have a quorum still of 4 members of the council, and council members not present. We have a quorum of 4, and the motion passes 4-0. Our next item should be B, 7B.
I'm sorry, can we go back just 1 second? I have Councilmember Ricketts made the motion, but who was the second?
That was Councilmember Nahira that made the second, is that correct?
That's correct.
Thank you very much.
And you have that Councilmember or Mayor Pro Tem Morrow is not present, correct?
Correct.
Very good, thank you. Item 7B, discuss, consider, and act to ratify the action of the Haslet Community and Economic Development Corporation Type B, which voted to adopt the tennis courts project as an eligible project for funding and to amend the budget by $89,753.
This will be Thad Chambers.
Mr. Chambers, you're on.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. This item is brought before you. I have attached to this report the previous work done by a former city manager or city engineer, former city engineer Travis Adanasio. This is a project that has been on the city's wish list for some time. Council had asked the Parks Board to take action. They came up with funding totaling $107,000, but the 2 courts, that left a gap of almost $90,000 to complete the 2 courts as approved and preferred by the Parks Board. And the council then asked the EDCs to consider this funding. It took 2 meetings to get a final resolution. Type A would like to continue focusing on primary jobs and did not partake in this. It would have been their first time to do so, but the ask was there because it is a possibility under provisions provided by council. But type B does want to do this project, and they agreed and voted 6-0 to amend their budget by $89,753 to complete the full project. And they asked for y'all's consideration to ratify that and allow that to happen. I'll answer any questions I can.
Council, any questions?
So this is to allow for 2 courts, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
2 courts with fencing and nets.
Okay.
There is no lighting. Understand?
That is also correct.
And this was if I remember correctly, the orientation was done this way because it fit best for, as far as the lighting and, the way the sun rises and sets and it affecting the way the tennis players would be able to see. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am. That was Travis had done research on the correct angle in this hemisphere and in this location, and that is why the courts are at that angle.
And our tennis players also reviewed this and agreed with this layout and orientation.
And do we, I know it was previously discussed about removing, some of the trees would have to be removed. Is that part of this, that they'll be, some of them will be replaced? Or is that gonna have to come back later as a separate item?
There is a tree replacement category of $1,260 in the estimate of cost. So I believe that is not just for removal. That is replacing the trees that have to come down.
Okay, and then I noticed it, we talked about the disc golf hole throwing area has to be moved, the one that's located in this area. And so is that something that the Parks Board will be taking over as far as changing that and fixing that?
Councilmember, I'm afraid I do not know the answer to that question.
City of Haslet Public Works Department and their parks employees will deal with moving that and rearranging the disc golf course.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Rogers.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Council, is there a motion?
Councilmember Robb, I'll take a stab at it. I move to ratify the action of the Haslet Community and Economic Development Corporation, Type B, in their vote to adopt the tennis court project as an eligible project for funding and to amend the budget by $89,753.
There's motion made by Councilmember Robb to accept the EDC Type B proposal to take the tennis court project and amend their budget by $89,753. Is there a second?
I second that.
There is a second. Any further discussion? Roll call vote. Mayor Pro Tem Morrow, if you're with us. Okay. Mayor Pro Tem Morrow is considered absent for the remainder of the meeting. Councilmember Clark.
Aye.
Councilmember Robb.
Aye.
Councilmember Nahara.
Aye.
Councilmember Ricketts.
Aye.
Motion passes 4-0. Thank you. We are on 7C. 7C, discuss, consider, and act on bid results for the fire station parking lot. If you bring up the parking lot bid summary. And okay, we can zoom up a little bit. Whoever can read that, I can't read them all from here. And we zoom up on that portion. All right, then. We have a low bid of 98. I can read it now. We have a low bid of 98,686. I'm incorrect when I read these numbers. Please let me know. We have a high bid of 149,378, and groupings, well, not necessarily in the middle. We have a range. One is 116,657, another is 136,253, and then another is 144,943. And with notification there's a corrected bid. I don't know what their previous was. Nonetheless, I've made proposal in the document here is due to the range of this bid, and I think we had an estimate of approximately 190,000. Is that correct? But due to the range of these bids, to me it expresses there was not an understanding, not speaking to any of the contractors, but something in our documentation or understanding of the project was not there. And I just propose that we reject all bids.
So, Mayor Halsey?
Yes.
So you're just proposing that we reject all of the bids and put them out for someone else to bid again, or reconsider the whole project?
At this point, the agenda item is these bids.
Mayor Halsey, this is Councilmember Ricketts.
Yes. Now, let me say this, that to accept any bid here, you can only choose one, the way it was advertised, and that would be the lowest bid. That's your, either accept the lowest bid or reject all bids.
This is Councilmember Ricketts. I thought with the stuff that you sent out today, Mr. Quinn, that that was a little bit different. And I know we talked about this one time beforehand about the low bid, but I thought it said it was like item number 2 or number 3 that actually said low bid upon, with additional recommendations. And that was going to be, we've talked about this one more time, last time too. Has anyone done any technical evaluation of these bids, or do we have anyone here that's able to do a technical evaluation of these bids to see that they met the specifications that we asked in our RFP?
We have no one on staff qualified to do that, the technical bids. The only one I know would be Mayor Halsey, he's an engineer. We have no engineers on staff.
Just a follow-up question to Councilmember Ricketts' question. Do we know if Travis did anything along those lines prior to him leaving?
No, he did not.
So this is Councilmember Rob. Do we think that these bids are still valid, or have they aged out?
Most bids usually are good for 60 to 90 days.
So when I looked at these, and maybe Terry, you looked at them closer, being more familiar with contracts, but it appeared to me that the major difference is the price of pavement. What they're estimating the unit price of concrete is. seems to be the biggest difference. You know, the low bidder is 7.8, and the high bidder was 11.4. So that seems to be the predominant difference. You know, the single item that makes the most difference in here. And I don't know what's good and what's not. You know, maybe this guy's got a sort of leverage on concrete. I don't know.
And you're right. Even you mentioned 11.4, the very last bid, or the farthest to the right, is $12.30. So there's a huge range in this. There's a big range in the pricing of concrete, which they all should have about the same prices here locally. And I looked at those, and there are some differences in other items like that. So I don't know how to look at that, and then maybe someone didn't understand the documents.
This is Councilmember Ricketts one more time, and I sort of looked at the same thing that Councilmember Rob looked at. And I guess that's a concern, you know, again, if we go out and we actually reject all, we know construction right now, concrete is not going down. We go request another RFP to this, you know, that's the reason I was sort of asking if there's any type of validation or that anyone could actually do to actually see what is the proper cost, or the going, you know, I know just because there's such a large difference here.
Well, we do not have that capability on staff, Councilmember Ricketts.
So if that's the case, Mayor Halsey, and they've given us an RFP stating that they will sell, their concrete cost is $7.80, and that RFP has a validation period for so long, then that the $7.80 would be the recommended path forward.
You can look at it that way, but I would envision that you're going to get change orders. They're not going to give they're not going to buy and give concrete to us. Simple as that. It looks like 3 out of the 5 bids that we have is a minimum of $11.
Mm-hmm.
Then there's $11.40 and $12.30.
Marcy, can you remind us of how much was budgeted for this item?
I believe it was 108,000.
No.
Let me look that up real quick and I'll get back to you.
$184,600.
Sorry, can you repeat that?
It was 184,000. I'll let Marcy look it up. I don't know. I mean,
I'll look it up real quick.
Okay, thank you.
The other aspect, I know we're looking at these bids, is that the actual layout itself, I'm going to say I don't have a lot of confidence in the engineer's design that designed this. There are other projects that were engineered by the same person that we're having to go back and fix. So there are many other questions, and maybe that leads to the discrepancy in these bids. But there's much to be desired about this whole aspect.
This is Mayor Pro Tem Mark. Can you hear me but not see me? Is that correct?
Is this council member Morrow?
Yes. Can you hear me but not see me? I make sure that's correct. My connection is only audio, or can you see me?
I can hear you. But let me ask something first. Rob Alabon. Rob Alabon, are you with us?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
there
Can
you
you
are.
hear me?
Does statutes allow that we can have purely a audio call and no visual?
Yes, sir. That is correct.
All right then. Go ahead, Councilmember Morrow.
Oh, good. Thank you so much. I apologize. I know you're talking about the concrete. Is the concrete and the irrigation, are those the two largest discrepancies in the five bids? Is that correct?
Well, we spoke to concrete costs. We didn't speak to the irrigation costs. But the irrigation 14, yeah, there are discrepancies and ranges through the irrigation cost as well.
Yeah, those are the two things I noticed. I just wondered, is that something that's just the cost of concrete is going to be just vary, and then the cost of irrigation is just going to vary, or why are there such a difference in that? And I don't know if the few engineers we have probably can shed some light on that.
Well, to me, there's some misunderstanding either in the drawings or in the written specifications. And then within those, and I haven't read the specifications, and possibly the materials used, from one contractor to another, like the first bid to the second bid, it's over, it's from $6,000 to $14,000. And then there's variations. There's little agreement on irrigation, as well as the concrete. There's more agreement on the higher end of concrete than there is for $7.80. That's for sure. So it's the first bidder, which we'd be obligated to select. If you should select a bidder, the way this was advertised is you must go with the lowest cost bidder. Now, does that mean that's what your actual costs are going to be? Again, that's no, because you'll get change orders. They're not going to give the project away.
This is Marcy. The total that was budgeted for this project was $188,000.
Mayor Halsey, this is Councilmember Ricketts. I did go back and look at the RFP. Basically, the only guidance on the parking lot itself, it says 5 inches with a 3,600 PSI concrete over compacted subgrade. It doesn't mention anything about rebar off center. So again, there could be ways that this could be interpreted, yes.
Council, I'm going to tell you, you might be worried about the price of concrete, but if you select this bid, and it's built according to those plans that what Councilmember Rick has confirmed, is something you're going to tear up and build again. I think the wise thing to do here is to reject all bids, has confirmed these plans, get them in an engineer's hands and confirm these plans. This sounds like Haslet Park Road to me, laying a roadway with no rebar in it, and then it cracks immediately. We don't want that. We want quality projects. We can't be spending our money on bad design.
Mayor Patemar, I had a question again. So that's a good point, Councilmember Ricketts, about the concrete and the rebar. Could we look back at the parking lot that we put out to bid next to City Hall and see if those specifications were there as well to kind of mirror that? I would think they'd be kind of the same. But and then if we agree that reject all bids and put it out to get new ones, it's not just like a dead project, right? We would go out for more bids. That's how everybody feels.
We confirm the plans that they're sufficiently engineered that we're getting quality product, or we're asking for a quality product, and then put it out to bid again.
Okay, thank you.
This Councilmember Clark, I do want to make one note that I think before there was some confusion that we would be doing this parking lot expansion, and then eventually parking spots as part of this expansion would then be ripped out with the 151 expansion. And as everyone can see, that there's no intention of that. And included in that that item that Mr. Quinn sent out to council today, you can see where the 151 expansion is, and it wouldn't come into these parking spots.
You mean 156? You mean Highway 156 expansion?
Yes.
Okay. Well, that's that's assuming if there's 7 lanes, which I doubt very seriously it's going to be 7 lanes. And the other is that it's not the parking lot encroaching on this parking lot. It's that the expansion would take away the ability to utilize the parking lot in the front already there, because it would come so close and you could not have entryway into the parking lot. So it would render it useless. I mean, there's another point. If 7 lanes are actually to come into Haslet, Texas, and that TxDOT project caused that parking lot to be rendered useless because of the encroachment of it, then TxDOT would pay for a new parking lot.
And this Mayor Pro Tem Morrow, that's just more argument to have an expansion. If that parking lot that's facing west is deemed useless, we would definitely.
I'm not arguing against any. I'm not arguing against any additional spaces at all.
Okay,
not
good. That sounded like you. Okay, so yeah, that's a great point I thought you made. So I was saying if that parking lot is rendered useless and facing west, then even more so to have that south-facing parking lot expansion.
I would choose another place to put it. That's for certain. Not on the north side of the fire department.
So would you like it? Would you want like it's a complete redesign of where the parking lot should go, or?
I would think that the council might want to consider what are your alternatives. There was no alternative offered to you.
Sorry, it's Mayor Pro Tem Morrow again. I believe there was behind the building, but so there were different options of where to put it. But that's a good point too, to see if there's some additional space available.
Is there staff that can verify whether or not, because I believe that there was an issue behind whether or not we could actually expand behind the fire station. Is there anyone who can actually give any information on that?
I can speak to that, in that it was said that all the area behind the fire department was designated as parkland. Not all of it was. Where the ball fields it's parkland. But all that area, with around and behind the fire station is not parkland. The parkland starts down at the ball fields, and which is quite a distance. Probably, I'm going to say, 300 yards or more from the fire department. So,
Chief Mays, you want to add anything?
Not for sure. I want to get in the middle of this.
Chief Mays and I have discussed it. It would serve the same purposes, but it's the council to look at different options. Because putting it anywhere else was almost ruled out. And I'm not quite certain why it was all ruled out. And the only option, or the only hesitancy I heard, was because of parkland. Well, there is no parkland designation up by the fire station.
Just for further discussion, Mayor Halsey, if we were to move to reject these proposals, do we have someone that we could send this to, since we do not have a city engineer at this point, to actually review and bring this back up at a future date?
To review what? Review the existing design?
Review the RFP. If we're going to reject and send out a new RFP with new specifications, do we have the means to have someone do that?
For sure, we can contract with any engineering firm.
Okay.
That's how we would have to do it.
This is Councilmember Clark. Is there anyone who on staff who can give more information on the whole item of expand?
I can't hear Councilmember Clark. I don't know if anyone else can, but I can't hear her.
She froze up.
I believe the question was, why are we doing it? I would tell you that we need additional parking spaces at the fire department. I'm not here to argue over where to put it. I would just tell you that if it is put to the north side of the building, it would give better access to the front lobby for those that are handicapped, for inclement weather, people trying to use our training room as a community center. It's the better location for that.
It appears that the mayor has dropped off and also the city of Haslet.
Yeah, Jessica dropped off too. Must be something going on down there.
Yeah, I only see 6 people. I don't know how many people you guys see.
Office Mayor Pro off tomorrow. I was off. Yes, I was off and it reconnected pretty quickly, but it kicked me off as well. I'm still trying to
Your connection is not very good.
Rob, are you still available?
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes. Do we need to move to recess until we get Lindsay back on?
Well, your electricity just went off in Haslet Park.
I'm going to see, is Katrina still on the line? Maybe we just kind of take a pause and see if Katrina can get everybody back online.
Hear me now?
Yes. Was that you, Ms. Council Mayor Pro Tem Marwa? Did you say that the electricity's out in Haslet Park?
Jim Quinn. Yes, sir.
I don't know exactly how to do this. Councilmember Rob, or Rob, do we just take a 10-minute recess?
Looks like they're gonna try to recess for 10 minutes.
I think Jim has some information for the mayor.
Just a second.
Councilmember Ricketts, I think we should, before we take action, let's try and get a hold of Jim Quinn. I think sounds like he's on the phone with the mayor.
Okay.
Mayor Halsey is on the phone. Just let him listen to, and let's just let him say something.
And I suggest we come back in 30 minutes. And in fact, 30 minutes, so that would make it 9:23. Come back and check. And at that time, between now and then, the meeting is in recess. As far as the rule, as I know it, Mr. Alabon, you can correct me, is that we have up to 6 hours to correct this IT problem. Or we can continue at any time. We can motion to continue the meeting tomorrow night. So those are our options. I would recommend we go, and let's call recess. I'll call recess now for 30 minutes. And that's, it's 8:54 p.m. June 21st, 2021.
I can hear you.
All right, very good. I see that Councilmember Ricketts is with us, Councilmember Hector, Councilmember Rob. There's Councilmember Morrow, Mayor Pro Tem Morrow.
Good, can you hear me as well?
Yes.
Okay, good deal.
Councilmember Clark is with us. Can you hear us?
Can you hear me?
Yes. Okay, it's 9:23. We have a full council. All 5 council members are present, so we can resume our meeting. It is 9:23 p.m. on June 21st, 2021. We were at agenda item
7C.
7C. There we are. Thank you very much.
Mayor, this is Rob. Can we just confirm that Katrina is still recording?
Yes, we are.
Okay,
We
thank
are.
you.
Very good. Okay, we left off with item 7C. Is there further discussion?
This is Mayor Pro Tem Morrow. I wanted to ask something about what Councilmember Ricketts said with the parking lot. So item 3, like you said, says use 5-inch 3,600 PSI concrete, and then blah, 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 has it listed A, B, C, D, E. So every single person that submitted the bid, that's the concrete that they are going to provide. Is that correct?
That should be.
So okay, our options then just are to, help me if I'm right here, to award it to the lowest bidder and then make sure that they do what they say they're going to do, or to reject all bids and rebid, trying to get, like you all said, closer, monetary, I guess, bids. Is that correct?
It would be, but we would review the plans and the specifications to ensure that they were specific enough, descriptive enough to avoid such a spread.
Mayor Halsey?
Yes.
Councilmember Ricketts? I move to reject the current bids that we've had on the firehouse. I'm trying to pull it back up here. For the fire station parking lot expansion project at this time, and to table the RFP for further review.
Motion is made to reject all bids on the fire station parking lot expansion project and to
It may be two motions. Really. The first motion, I think I moved to reject the fire station parking lot expansion project bids as written.
Okay, motion is revised. Motion is made to reject all bids on the fire station parking lot expansion. Is there a second?
I second that.
That was Council Member Hector Nahara has seconded. Any further discussion?
Yes, this is Mayor for tomorrow. I had a question and then I just completely forgot what it was. If someone else has a question, I'll try to think of it again.
Yeah, this is Councilmember Rod. Hopefully we can make the assumption that this is still a needed project that we want to go forward after review. Is that the way you're leaning?
That's where I was thinking I needed to make two different separate motions, Councilmember Rob.
I just want to make a comment. I think I'm going to visit with the fire chief to get his take on this also. I think he should have some input, just to get his opinion, to see what his view of this whole thing is.
Are you asking me to speak now?
No, not necessarily. I just want to make an appointment to come see you.
Understood. Thank you.
In the near future.
Very good.
I remember my question. This is Mayor Pro Tem Mara. I remembered. My question was, with Cole construction, who did we use for the parking lot that's next to City Hall? Is it any of the people that responded with this request for bid? Do we know that, staff? I'm sorry.
I don't know that. Mayor does not know that. Jim Quinn, do you know that?
You're testing my memory. That's like 5 years ago. Maybe David would know.
Yeah, Greenscape was the contractor who did the City Hall parking lot.
So it's not this low bidder that we, no insinuation there. It was not Cole.
They are the second bidder. The one that's, I believe, 116,000. That's the one who did our parking lot that we have at City Hall.
Okay, so and we can't legally go with them. Is that correct?
Not the way this was put out. It was advertised that we would have to accept the lowest bid. There is a motion on the floor. Is there any further discussion? If there is none, then I'll call for the vote.
Oh, this is Councilmember Clark. I just had a question. Is there any kind of separate of the motion, but is there any rhyme or reason as to why we get recommendations on certain items and not on other items? I noticed that this item and the tennis courts had recommendations, but none of the other items.
Sometimes, go ahead. Sometimes you miss them. I don't know why they're both like that. I'll have to be more consistent next time regarding the recommendations. Either none is what our goal is, I guess. So might miss those.
Let me say this, is that the recommendations have been pulled off because it was insinuating this is the way to vote. And the council is fully capable. I know all you people. And you're fully capable of making your own decision without someone making a recommendation to vote a certain way. That's why it was taken off. The public have noticed that and made numerous comments to that it appeared that you were being told which way to vote. So I pulled those off to alleviate that problem. I mean, you can hear the facts and make your own mind up. I have full confidence in your capability of doing that. But that's why it was. But on this one, I felt the need to make a recommendation based on the spread and the design and all. There were too many red flags on this project.
So just to echo Councilmember Clark, so this one, we needed the advice for the recommendation, but other ones we might not. So is it something that's going to be, everything's pulled off, or they're all going to be put back on, or how did you pick and I don't know if it's you, Mayor, or if it's Mr. Quinn, but how the recommendations get picked and chosen on which ones we can think for ourselves and which ones we might need that additional, guidance? That's a good question.
I chose to make a recommendation on this. The default is that no recommendations will be put out.
Mayor Halsey, this is Councilmember Ricketts. Could it be in the future that that is something that should be asked in discussion? I think we all as council members should be able to ask that question. Hey, has the city looked at this? What do they think about this? We could ask that question.
Oh, you can ask that question on each one of these, yes.
Correct. Correct. In that way, so.
But, so, we do have a motion and a second on the floor. The motion and second being to reject all bids. Any, so there's any further discussion on that item? If not, I'll call for a roll call vote. Councilor Mayor Pro Tem Morrow.
Nay.
Councilmember Clark.
Nay.
Councilmember Robb.
Nay.
Councilmember Nahara.
Aye.
Councilmember Ricketts.
Aye.
Okay, the motion to reject all bids has failed, 3-2.
Does that, Mayor Halsey, this is Councilmember Ricketts.
Yes.
Based upon that, we now have to accept coal as the lowest price bidder and go forward with coal, correct?
We need another mission to, another motion to award to the lowest bidder.
Because in my understanding, it was either coal or we had to reject all bids.
That's correct. Can we have a motion to award to the lowest bidder? It's an explicit motion.
Mayor Halsey, I move to accept coal as the lowest bidder for the fire station project.
Motion has been made to accept coal as the low bidder of this project. Is there a second?
This is Mayor Pro Tem. I'll second.
There is a second. Any further discussion?
This is Mayor Pro Tem. I just wanted to just kind of clarify a little bit to my thinking, because we're not in public. I want people to understand. When Greenscaping was who, thank you, Mr. Rogers, was told did the first one, then I look at their numbers and they're so similar, minus the irrigation system. I feel confident that coal will give us a quality project, and if they do not, we need to make sure that we go back to that request for bid and make sure this is what we are given. So that's why I felt confident in that choice.
Any further discussion? Okay, it's motion and second. I roll call vote. Mayor Pro Tem Morrow.
Aye.
Councilmember Clark.
Aye.
Councilmember Robb.
Aye.
Councilmember Nahara.
Nay.
Councilmember Ricketts. Councilmember Ricketts. Turn your mic on. You're muted, sir.
Nay.
Okay, motion passes. The contract is awarded to coal for $98,686. Okay, next item, please.
I think it was 7H. 7H.
7H. Consider review of the City of Haslet adopted strategic plan. I want to make a opening comment to the strategic plan. Council, I hope you have listened to the public and do listen to them. And there's many objections to this strategic plan. one with projects, et cetera, that might be listed on there. But one I'm going to open up with has to do with the statements generally beginning on page 5 of this strategic plan. And it has to do with, says Haslet operates under a 6-member mayor council general law form of government with an appointed city administrators. The powers of the municipal government are vested in the council consisting of 6 members. That's incorrect. The governing body consists of 6 members, that being a mayor and a council of 5. There are certain things in here that need to be corrected, that being one of them, and one of whom is the mayor. And the council is a legislative body primarily responsible for setting policy and a balanced budget. City administrator oversees the day-to-day operations. This is, there's much more to be described here if you're trying to describe our government than what is here. Under the administration department, it states that administration department consists of all functions of the city administrator's office. The city administrator appointed by the city council is the chief administrative officer. Now, I'm taking exception to that statement. Local government code, which you've all been given a new copy of, and I've encouraged you to read it, under the duties of mayor, or the statute states that the mayor is the chief executive officer of the municipality. That being because it is a corporation, a nonprofit corporation. The chief executive officer spans over operations and administration. To call the city administrator the chief administrative officer is an incorrect statement. So there's little.
It's actually a correct statement, Mayor, under the rules that the council has adopted.
Excuse me, Mr. Alabon, if you want to be recognized, ask so. Don't interrupt.
Well, I'd like to be recognized then to correct your errors, Mayor.
We're not going to debate that right now, sir. And we've had that discussion, and I know your stance, and it happens to be incorrect.
No, sir, your stance is incorrect.
Well, Mr. Alabon, you're a consultant to the city. Remember that. You're supposed to sit here and argue with me or any other council person or the mayor here in this forum. I'm making statements. You just don't like them.
I'm not arguing with anything. I'm advising the council what the actual, you've armed them with the local government code, which is great. They can actually see what it says. And what you're saying is not completely accurate. It does say that the mayor is the chief executive officer, but the council has assigned all administrative duties and functions to the city administrator. So those statements in that policy, the strategic plan, are actually correct.
I understand your stance. Thank you very much, Mr. Alabon.
Thank you, sir.
Nonetheless, there needs to be correction to, I don't know who wrote this, probably a person, but nonetheless, this needs to be corrected.
This is Mayor Pro Tem Mara. May I be recognized?
Yes, ma'am.
I just want to thank y'all so much for putting this on the agenda because I had asked for this to be placed, and I'll keep this short. I thought it was a really good information for everybody that's new to have. This is a living document created and written by the previous council and mayor, along with the staff help. And what's awesome about it, if something is wrong or we feel changes or needs to be amended, adapted, adjusted, we can do that because it's our document, which is what makes it so good. And I just wanted to explain a few things, and then really I'll be quick. Page 3 talks about the pillars that we decided were the priorities of the city of Haslet, or the city of what we felt should be priorities: public safety, quality of life, infrastructure, community involvement, and facilities. And we didn't rank them like this is 1, this is 5. We just felt these were all important. And then you've already talked about the department, so thank you for that. Items, page 6 and 7. Sorry, 7. Is it? Oh, that's the departments. And then 11 and 12 are the last two I just want to talk about. I'm going to get past all the tax stuff, but that hurts my head a little bit. But the vision statement that was created, and once again, it can be changed if we feel if it needs to be, if it's adaptive, it's grown. But we said home of unique residential and commercial opportunities, fostering wellness, safety, and civic engagement. And we felt that's what we were trying to do. And then finally, page 12 just has those core values at the bottom. But we try to communicate and have good customer service, to be dependable, to have initiative, productivity, professionalism, and quality and teamwork. And so anything in those short-term, mid-term, and long-term plans, we can move around. I just wanted to let Councilmember Ricketts and Nahara know that if we want to pull something off and make it a priority, we can do that. If we say this is something we want to push to 10 years, we can do that. So it's a really good document, and I hope it helps with budgeting when we get to that. So thanks again for putting it on here.
Well, thank you, and I appreciate your comments. I do. There were several citizens that wanted to make comments. One wanted a letter read, and Miss Kathy Brandon wanted to speak to this. Ms. Brandon, are you online?
Yes, sir. Yes, Mayor and Council. I looked through this quite extensively and noticed, like you said, a number of short-term, mid-term, and long-term goals and projects. And I, as a citizen,
I'm so sorry, Brandon. What's your address? I apologize for asking, but
sure. Sorry, I should have opened with that. 213 Bain Road, here in Haslet. I'm almost a 36-year resident. I live down the street from Warren Robb. And I looked through the projects and so forth, and I would just like to ask the council for an extensive review of the plan. I noticed about $9 million allocated for fire stations. There's almost $1 million allocated for a potential park over in Caraway. And I would just like to ask this just be looked at extensively. I did a little comparison on my own. Justin, which is our neighbor to the north, they have about 15,000 people that they have to cover by their fire station. And they support Northlake, they support Dish, and then they also support the unincorporated county there in Denton. They have one fire station, and it covers approximately 80 square miles. They have a chief, and I believe she said about 3 full-time firefighters. They also have about 30 volunteers. And I also checked with Crum. They have a contract, which I thought some of their concept was excellent. They have a contract that they cover Ponder. It's a 5-year contract, and their full coverage is for about 30,000 people. They cover 78 square miles for the fire district. They have one station. They do have a situation where they're building a new subdivision near 380, and it crosses the other side of the railroad track. And what they have been able to work out with is the developer in the new subdivision is building the fire station at their cost, at the developer's cost, and they will also pay for the salaries for the firefighters and the administrative folks to cover that station. They told me, and I don't know, I'm not real knowledgeable about the Haslet situation. They told me that they use full-time firefighters along with their volunteers. They staff the shifts, and I was just told that they don't, you cannot differentiate between the full-time and the volunteers, that they're all, all representing on the shifts. But I just found that the ideas they seemed really good to me and very cost effective to have a contract with another local city to provide coverage, and also the creativeness that they were able to develop with the developer. And another situation or area that I noticed was a potential future plan for a city park in Caraway. I drove over there myself, and I've noticed that they have a swimming pool. They have a couple of ponds in front with water fountains. And I just thought that $1 million for an area to have another public park that wouldn't really be for the entire all the citizens of Haslet just seemed quite extensive to me. I just didn't think that sounded like it would be in the best interest. But anyway, those are just some comments that I'd like to share with you. And I'm really glad that you put that on the agenda today. And I, as a citizen, would like to ask that this plan be extensively reviewed. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Brandon. I have a letter here, as well as City Secretary has a copy of this letter that was sent in by Mr. Mike Rhodes. His address is 212 Thistle Drive, Haslet, Texas. It says, good evening. First, I am not available to attend in person to make public comments, so I am submitting these to be read into record. First, we as citizens of Haslet appreciate your willingness to serve and represent the citizens and future of Haslet. Second, our community in the most recent election overwhelmingly expressed our desire that each of you would respectfully listen and represent the wishes of your citizens. The past focus on high-density projects, negotiated agreements that included variances from adopted development standards, broad interpretations of planned developments from our comprehensive development plan, intended for Old Town development and housing adjoining, to circumvent neighborhood standards with developers and substantial tax incentives / abatements to warehouses have led to aggravations we live with on a daily basis. Traffic, lack of maintenance of what we have, a strategic plan that is not in line with the wishes of the citizens, to most recently rejecting a resolution, RE, high-density development on Blue Mound West across from Lonesome Dove, would express our concerns to the city of Fort Worth regarding the impact of such a development would have on our community. Third, our expectation is that each of you would represent the citizens, neighborhoods, and the future of our community rather than developers, the city of Fort Worth, and other entities of your personal agenda as evident by your pattern of voting. Tonight, as you discuss this strategic plan, review expending money to transition our current fire station into a public works building, building 2 new fire stations, a new city hall in excess of $15 million, and make other budgetary decisions. We ask you to first make it your priority to take care of what we have. Currently, this is not being done, as evident by the failure to maintain our streets and roads in our neighborhoods and mowing rights of way, public areas, lack of adequate staffing for public works, not to mention a understaffing of our city permits and inspection department. Please listen, consider, vote for reasonable and responsible solutions that transparently reflect the wishes and desires of your citizens as expressed. We all want what is best for Haslet. That is why for living here. Let me state that again. All of us want the best for Haslet. That is our why for living here. What we do, how we vote, how we will vote in the future. Our community desires planned, responsible growth and respectful representative leaders who will mirror the overwhelming votes expressed in the May 2021 election. Mike Rhodes. With that, I'll is there any further discussion on the comments on the strategic plan?
This is Councilmember Clark. I just want to echo what Mayor Pro Tem mentioned, that this is a living document, and the whole point of this was to set us up as a foundation that we can use going forward. And to her other point, that those 5 pillars are put in place so that one isn't necessarily more important than the other, but that we are always considering all 5 of them.
Understood.
This is Councilmember Rob. I just wanted to point out that, you know, this wasn't just handed down as a decree. We had public hearings before this was adopted, you know, and as Jessica just mentioned, this has always been intended as a living document, and we recognize things change. And as we move forward, we can easily change this. This gives us the framework, if we choose to use it, to rearrange things, add new things, take things out. But, you know, if you don't have a plan, then you don't never know where you're at. So that was our intention, was to come up with a plan and then change it going forward as necessary.
Very good. Glad to hear you say that, Councilmember
Mayor
Rob.
Halsey,
Yes.
this is Councilmember Ricketts. I moved the strategic
There's no
plan.
action, excuse me, there's no action item on this.
There is none?
No. This is just we're looking at it, reviewing, make a comment. There is no action item on this.
Okay. I echo a lot of the words that we've heard from our constituents, because I heard them in the parks. I heard them while running. I heard them all over, and that we need to probably relook the strategic plan, bring it up to date. I do agree with you in certain instances, and I would like to have further clarification from the Texas Municipal Code, where I see some shall statements by the mayor. I think we have a strong mayor form of government. To note that we went to a city manager form of government, that takes a vote of the citizens according to the TML. So again, if you know, it sounds almost as if we're trying to have the best of both worlds, and we need to follow the Texas Municipal Code saying we have one or the other. And if we want to go to a city management form of government, we need to have a vote by the citizens. So I think we need to relook the whole thing. And I think that we've heard from a lot of constituents that have said the same thing.
Mayor Halsey?
Yes, sir.
Just going back to your statement, we understand we're a type A government. Can you guide us to where you get this reference where divides of powers from a mayor versus a city administrator? I know it's chapter 22, but can you just let for the council to look so we can look for ourselves?
Well, this is Mayor Pro Tem Morrow. Does this fit under this just agenda item?
Mayor Pro Tem Morrow.
I just want to make sure we're staying Robert's rules on the agenda item. I don't mind. This is good information. I know it's scheduled for the next meeting.
Excuse me, Mayor Pro Tem Morrow. Excuse me, ma'am. I believe he asked a question. I was just going to respond to it to help cover a section that's written in the strategic plan. Thank you. It's section 22.042. Now that covers the powers and duties of the mayor in a type A local government.
Thank you, Mayor Halsey.
Also in section 102.003, excuse me, section 102.001, designating the mayor as the budget officer and their duties and the mayor's duties prescribed according to that. Another item that you may look at is section 22.071. ABC, or excuse me, 22072. Item D, in prescribing duties to other municipal officers, only whose duties are not specified by the code. And I think that's where the discrepancy lies. The other duties have been prescribed that are not allowed to be. Nonetheless, Mayor Pro Tem Morrow, you had a comment.
Oh, no, I was making sure it fit in the strategic plan, but also, Councilmember Nahara, in the ordinance 012-2012, that'll give you more information. And I was hoping that, the city attorney could talk to Councilman Ricketts, strong mayor versus city manager, because he is correct. It would take a vote to change that. So I thought he might want information on that.
I'm happy to address that tonight or anytime that you would like. If the mayor will permit me, I'll do it tonight or whenever you'd like this addressed.
Well, it would be good that we have an item on this. This can be extensive, and we still got a lot of business to cover.
I agree with that. I agree with that.
So why don't we put it on and allot time to discuss this in depth?
That'd be fine, Mayor. The only thing I would, if you permit me 2 seconds to respond to Councilman Ricketts, in that you are correct that the only way to go to a council manager form of government is to have an election, and that's under Chapter 25 of the Local Government Code. That is not what Haslet has done. Haslet has an administrator appointed by this council, which they are authorized to do specifically, delegating to the city administrator the administrative functions of the city. And that's where the mayor and I are disagreeing on the reading of code. You do not have a strong mayor form of government currently. And the council has every right to establish rules with regard to how this city is governed, and that's what they have done. So we can go over the personnel policy and the code of ethics and conduct and the ordinances that have been adopted by this council that established all that in a lot more detail, and go through and answer all the questions that y'all may have.
That would be great, and I would appreciate that, Mr. Alabon. I would also appreciate reference to the TML where you actually where these are actually addressed.
Sure, and the council controls all that. So if the council chose to go to a strong mayor form of government, the council has every ability to do so. The council controls all of that.
That's where I don't know if I'm reading the same things. That's where I'd like to have reference to everything that you're stating, Mr. Alabon.
Yes, sir.
To the TML.
To Councilmember Ricketts, reference to the TML would be, that's fine. I know that Mr. Alabon can do that. But TML is not the authoritative document. It is the local government code that is the authoritative document. So you may ask him to provide you citation in the local government code as well.
You've already done that, Mayor. You've pretty well set out the entirety of the mayor's duties and powers are set out. That one.
Mr. Alabon.
Yes, sir.
We'll continue this on another agenda item, another meeting.
Sounds good.
Any comments from the council before we move on to our next agenda item? Okay, there are none. We'll move on to our next agenda item. Item 7I, discuss, consider, and act to forward to the Planning and Zoning Commission for the purpose of discussion, consideration, and action of a textual amendment to the zoning ordinance to the 3/4 supermajority requirement of the City Council to overrule a Planning and Zoning Commission recommendation of denial of a zoning change request. I had this put on there, council, and I noticed the reason is that a zoning change request could be put before P&Z And if they don't agree with that zoning change request, they can deny it by a simple majority of a 3-2 vote. And again, the planning and zoning is a advisory body to the city council. But yet, when this comes to the city council and the city council has to confirm and make vote on all these recommendations, is the city council could only overrule the planning and zoning by a supermajority, 4-1. And I thought that's kind of the tail wagging the dog. I understand that in some cities that they do this by the fact that they have a very experienced and well-trained P&Z that be viewed as experts. In checking is with our P&Z, not implying anything to them. They're all well-meaning, and I appreciate every one of them, but they have yet to have been given any training. We have put in process to do that, to provide them that training, but to date, they've received none. And so I view that city council probably possesses the knowledge and expertise with the consultants that they have available as to the P&Z to make these decisions without a supermajority. So what I'm asking here is that you approve this ordinance that diminishes or it sends this to the P&Z for their action, consideration, and action. They could deny it, but it comes back to the P&Z, and by simple majority vote, you can accept this resolution. That gives does not demand the supermajority requirement of the city council to override an advisory body's recommendation. Any questions?
Now, this is Councilman Rob. I actually agree with everything you said. And you know, and the biggest problem, I will agree, is they haven't had the training that they need, because this is probably one of the more complex boards we have, and it takes time to get people fully knowledgeable. And the issue for me is that they could, with good intention, deny someone who has a right for a zoning change and end up putting the city in a legal liability position because for an action that should have been ministerial, which means you follow the procedure with no judgment, is what that term means. And so it would allow the council then to realize that there's a mistake has been made in the action and override it. Now the council probably needs some training as well because it's been a while. So maybe there's something that we can all share in, because the council needs a good working knowledge of procedures in these areas as the planning and zoning does. Maybe not to the extent, but have a good overview. So I support this.
Very good. Thank you, Councilman Rob. Any other comments or any questions to this?
This is Mayor Pro Tem Morrow. I agree. I was on P&Z when this ordinance first was in place, and it does seem like there's a little bit of are we lacking experience? Are we not as trained? And I'm fully support a workshop or training and this item as well.
Thank you. If that's the case, could I get a motion?
This is Mayor Pro Tem. I'll attempt it because I think it's a two-part. So I move we accept and forward to the Planning and Zoning Commission a textual amendment to the zoning ordinance I don't know if I can say to remove the 3/4 supermajority requirement of the city council to overrule a planning and zoning commission recommendation of denial of a zoning change request. Does that sound
Great.
okay?
That's perfect. That's perfect. Very good. Is there a second?
Councilmember Rob, I'll second.
There is a second. Any further discussion? I'll do a roll call vote. Mayor Pro Tem Morrow,
Aye.
Councilmember Clark,
Aye.
Councilmember Robb,
Aye.
Councilmember Nahara,
Aye.
Councilmember Ricketts.
Aye.
Thank you. Motion passes 5-0. Mr. Morrison, this gets placed on the P&Z agenda. All right, 7J. Discuss, consider, and act on ordinance number 009-2021, approving the annual service and assessment plan update for Haslet Public Improvement District Number 3, known as North Glen. And who takes this one? Thad, is that you?
Oh, this would be Kyle Sikorsky. Is Kyle there? He's right there.
Okay, Kyle, it's yours, sir.
Well, good evening, Mayor and Council. Again, my name is Kyle Sikorsky. I'm with P3 Works. First of all, can everyone hear me okay?
Yes.
Perfect. Again, I'm with P3 Works. We are the city's public improvement district administrator. We have offices in North Richland Hills and also in Austin, Texas. We are essentially an extension of city staff. We handle all the PID administration services on behalf of the city. I'm hearing feedback. Can everyone hear me okay? Can everyone still hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay.
Good.
So I have a brief presentation that just gives a quick overview of PIDs. I can walk through that rather quickly if you'd like, unless everyone would rather just move through these items this evening. I can give an overview. Is there a preference?
I would appreciate the overview, and I'm sure that the new council members would. I know that our tenured council members are pretty well versed in this, but I and the two council members, new ones, would appreciate the overview. Thank you.
Of course. Thank you, Mayor. Well, I shared a presentation with staff earlier this afternoon. I don't know if they would be able to put it up on the screen or if I could share my screen.
Did you submit an presentation?
I believe I sent it to the staff. I also believe I sent it to the city secretary's email address. Was that not received?
Can you share the screen? Can you let him share screens?
Yeah, you can make him.
Where is he?
Him, that's him. Yeah.
Kyle, I'm gonna make you the presenter for right now.
Perfect. Thank you, sir.
I can't see that.
Okay, can everyone see this screen?
Yes, your screen is up.
Perfect. Okay, so a brief overview of public improvement districts. They are, and again, feel free to stop me at any point if you have questions along the way, but otherwise I will run through this. Chapter 372 is of the local government code is the statute that provides the legal and regulatory framework that governs the process of a PID. Essentially, public improvements are paid for via assessments They're separate from property taxes, but they're fixed amounts levied by the city council once and then collected over time via the county. The assessments are set and paid off over time with principal and interest and do not increase as home value increases. And the assessments can be prepaid at any time by the property owner. So big picture. Big picture, PIDs are not, I apologize, I believe everyone's kidding in a right now. Just give a minute. Okay. PIDs are not separate political subdivisions. You as the city council are the de facto board of the PIDs within your city. A PID allows the city to extend public infrastructure without burdening your current ratepayers and taxpayers with increases in city taxes. A PID can be thought of as an economic development tool when negotiating with developers, and it also grows the city's tax base without obligating any additional city revenues like you see through a tax increment reinvestment zone or 380 agreement. So the only revenue available is from the assessments that are levied on the property. How does a PID work? A PID is formed over a defined contiguous area. So essentially a boundary is drawn around a piece of property, typically when it's owned by a single property owner and they request the creation of a PID and it's approved by the city. Typically at that point after creation, the assessments are levied on the property within the PID based on the benefit received from those public improvements that are installed within the district. Again, like I said, the assessments can be paid in full or paid in annual installments. So you could kind of think of it like a car loan where you have a outstanding balance and you can prepay that in full at any time without penalty, or you pay it off over time with principal and interest. The assessment is a lien that runs with the land. So essentially when the initial property owner owns the area within the PID boundary, they consent to the assessment being placed on their property. And then as they sell the property, that lien runs with the land. So as you sell to a home builder and then a home builder sells to a homeowner, whatever the remaining outstanding assessment is at that time continues to run with that land and whoever the property owner is at that time. The assessments are used to pay debt service on tax-exempt bonds if bonds are issued on a project, or if the developer fronts the cash up front, it can be used to pay for the reimbursement that's entered into between the city and the developer, including an interest on that assessment. Administrative expenses are also included in the annual installment. So no administrative fees are paid for out of the city's general fund at any time. All of those funds are provided for through the PID and the collection of the annual installments. Financial implications for the city. So if the city were to issue PID debts like it has on one of its PIDs, that debt is non-recourse to the city. Both bonds and reimbursement agreements backed by PIDs are only backed by the assessment on the property within the PID. So those entities that are due the principal and interest on those bonds or reimbursement agreements can only be paid through those assessments. They could never come after any other funds within the city. The issuance of PID debt by the city also does not reduce the city's bonding capacity, and it allows the city to keep all of its ad valorem and sales tax revenues as well. For your other financial implication is really the administration. There's ongoing administration. Typically, when you levy an assessment, you're paying back that over time in annual installments, typically over 30 years. So once you create a PID, a city has the administrative responsibilities to update this the district as required by the statute each year. That administration is typically contracted to a third party such as ourselves, but still is overseen by city staff, and our fees, and other fees related to the district like county collections or audit fees are all still paid for through PID assessments. So the flow of funds for an annual installment, when the assessment roll is approved by the city council each year, the annual installment is then placed on the county tax bill. It's on the same bill as a resident's other property taxes like city, county, and ISD taxes. But the PID assessments are collected separately as a unique line item on the property tax bill. So just like they see city, county, ISD, if they're within a PID, they see a separate jurisdiction code for the district as well. And also the PID assessment is collected under a separate collection agreement that's entered into between the city and the county. So once that annual installment is placed on the tax bill and the tax bill is sent out to the resident at the end of each year, the residents pay the annual installment to the county if they've chosen not to prepay their assessment. Once the county has collected those dollars, they turn around and just like your property taxes, they transfer the annual installment to the city. The city then automatically goes and transfers the annual installment to a segregated PID fiduciary agency funds. So you're trying not to mix any of these dollars with your general fund dollars because they are two completely separate things. So you have these funds set up where the dollars are transferred each year. And then from those funds, they're then wired out to pay principal and interest either to bondholders or whoever is due from a reimbursement agreement that's entered into, typically the developer, unless the developer signs that on to someone else. And then also that annual installment, again, is paying for any of the outstanding administrative expenses that are related to the PID. So all is paid out from that PID fiduciary agency fund that you have. Again, no dollars are used from the city's general fund for either upfront creation or administration or payments of principal and interest. So from the very beginning, if a property owner or developer were to request that a PID be created, we typically require that they enter into what's called a professional services agreement, where they front the dollars for the city to hire consultants such as us that assist the city in reviewing requests and going through the actual process of creating the PID. And then again, as we move into the administration portion of the districts, as we're doing tonight, those services that are being provided are still being paid for from the annual installments that are collected within each PID. So no general fund dollars are being used in any way to administer these districts that you have. So what's actually on your agenda tonight is 5 items. They're your 2021 annual service plan updates. So the governing document that governs each district is called a service and assessment plan. That service and assessment plan, chapter 372, remember that's your governing chapter in the local government code. It requires that that service and assessment plan be updated each year by the city council. And so I've broken out just the big highlights of what each annual service plan update consists of, and I can walk through one with you together. We don't necessarily have to walk through the details of every single one tonight. But each SIP update will include a project history, so a brief overview of when the district was actually created, when the council levied their assessment up front, and then each corresponding ordinance that has been approved each year since the creation of the district that approved that year's annual service plan update. So you have that project history. You also then have construction updates. So we'll give a brief update. We work with the developers on getting an update of the actual installation of the public infrastructure and also the amount of homes or commercial property that have been built. That is all detailed in each one. We also will record any plats that are filed within the district and make sure all that information is captured. Each year we also update the outstanding assessment remaining in the district in total, and then on each lot as well. So that original assessment, again, we're paying it off a little bit each year with principal and interest. And so each year we go back in and update what the outstanding assessment is. We also detail in total and on a per lot basis what the annual installment is due for this upcoming year. So essentially what you see in these documents are what will be placed on the county tax bill at the end of 2021 and due by January 31st of 2022. Like I said, a resident or a property owner has the ability to prepay their assessment in full at any time. Once they're prepaid, they're no longer responsible for those principal and interest payments. They're also not responsible for the administrative expenses as well. So we have a section where we capture any prepayments that have occurred within the district. And then we also have a budget each year where we detail any changes and actual dollars that have been spent in installing the public infrastructure. And then also another requirement by Chapter 372 is we provide the 5-year service plan of indebtedness. So essentially that's a 5-year plan of what we anticipate collecting in principal, interest, and administrative expenses. That is really fairly consistent each year moving forward. It doesn't change much other than, we might have some changes in administrative expenses each year. Those are subject to change, but otherwise a relatively consistent budget or 5-year plan that you see each year. Then also as well, like I said, if a resident chose to buy a property within a district, they are required to be provided a home buyer disclosure by the previous owner that details to them that they are within a public improvement district and detail to them what the outstanding assessment is. We also provide on the third page of our home buyer disclosures a projected debt service schedule for the remaining life of the district so that a resident can see over time, over the remaining life of the PID, if they were to just pay the annual installments, what exactly in total that they would be paying over the life of that district. So each year that we pay off principal and interest, that remaining schedule gets a little bit shorter and that outstanding assessment goes down a little bit each year. So we prepare updated homebuyer disclosures and include that in your SAP updates. And we also have a template of a lien release, and that's a pretty standard form that essentially if a resident is to prepay their assessment, we on behalf of the city fill out that form, send it on to city staff for them to sign, and that lien release gets filed and recorded in the real property records of the county so that the resident has proof that they've prepaid their assessment, and then that recorded lien release number gets captured in the following year's SAP update. So that's just a brief overview of your main sections within each SAP update. Any questions just generally before I move on? Perfect. Well, hearing none. Oh, go ahead.
Mayor, your mic's not on, Mayor.
Oh, thank you. Probably everybody would prefer it stays off anyway. I had a question. It's last week that when Mr. Quinn and I and you were having a teleconference, you had made mention that PIDs are used as an incentive for developers. Could you just, 30-second review of that and why it is?
Of course. So a PID, like I said earlier, it's a economic development tool that the city has at its disposal. And so if city staff or city council, if they so choose that they would like a certain level or quality of development, a PID is one of those economic development tools at their disposal that they can offer to a developer, where they typically will enter into a development agreement and they'll say, in exchange for this PID being created, we will enter into this development agreement and detail these higher standards or different amenities that will be provided by the developer in exchange for the PID. So again, it's an economic development tool that the city has at its disposal. It has the ability to choose to create them or not create them. But once they are created by the council and that assessment is levied, the city council does have the responsibility under Chapter 372 to update these SAP updates each year and approve the assessment roll that gets sent to the county to be placed on the tax bill.
So so I get it correct, there is no direct cost to the city. It's just that these requests for upgraded amenities, whatever the case may be, would just be passed on to the home buyer.
Correct.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
All right. Council, if you got any questions for on the presentation, then we can get to the items at hand.
So I've got a quick question. So basically, this is just to approve the annual service agreement. Is that correct?
That is correct, sir. We essentially, the assessment is already placed on the land. The biggest part of what you're approving is really Exhibit A of each one of our SAP updates. That's the assessment roll. That assessment roll details the remaining outstanding assessment on each lot and gives the annual installment that will actually be sent to the county to be placed on that tax bill. So you're not levying any kind of new assessments. You're essentially just updating the document each year to approve what will be sent to the county to be placed on the tax bill as it was already contemplated, but you're not approving any kind of new liens or assessments.
Okay, understood.
I have one last question, if you would, please. So if it being an incentive to get a developer to develop certain amenities, if the PID is not offered, what is the consequence to the developer?
I'm sorry, could you repeat the question?
If a PID is not offered to a developer, what is the consequence to the developer?
It's all part of the negotiation between a city and a developer of if they wanted a development, if a developer came to a city and requested the PID and the city denied that request, then it's the developer's responsibility of how he would like to move forward with either developing or not developing that project and what he would intend on building. Of course, if you're within city limits, all that still goes to the city council. So that's really the developer's prerogative, what he would do if he was denied a public improvement district.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
Just one other quick question. Is it typical for a city to offer a PID, or the other way around, where the developer comes and requests for a PID?
The majority of the time, it's a property, according to the statute, the property owner has to submit a PID petition requesting the creation of the public improvement district. I believe the statute says it's more than 50% of the property owners. Typically, it's a single owner developer that will submit the PID petition. But yes, it is typically the developer that requests the creation of the PID.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
All right, council, shall we proceed to the agenda items? If we go ahead and pull that first agenda item up, or on the PIDs, the service plans.
Mayor Halsey?
Yes.
Since these are all the same essentially, could we just put them all on one line item and vote for them all together?
We did not list them that way, but we can move through them rather quickly.
Okay.
And
so,
sorry, go ahead, Mayor.
No, please go ahead.
I was just going to offer, if council would like, I can certainly just walk through this first PID number 3 SAP update and just give a brief overview, kind of pointing out some of the things I've already said. So if you'd like, I can just go through one and then allow you to consider the rest without walking through them in detail.
Council, is that to your liking? Got a thumbs up. Kyle, go ahead, please.
All right, I'll just, yeah. So your introduction, again, this, like I said, this gives your brief overview and history of the district, so you can see exactly when the PID was created, and you'll see each year, 2017, 18, 19, 20, each year that we've gone through and updated this annual service plan update. So when we see you again next year to do this again, you'll see these ordinances included in this introduction. You can scroll down. So trigger date, this just gives a detail of when the collection of principal and interest actually begins on some of these reimbursement agreement PIDs. So with this first one, you've had a final plat, and the infrastructure has been accepted by the city on phase 1. So that triggered collection of principal and interest to begin on phase 1. That has not happened. We're on phases 2 and 4. So as development continues and we hit those trigger dates, then you'll see this document updated to include each one of those future phases as well. But otherwise, you see the parcel subdivision. So we record any final plats, and then parcel and home sales. We give a brief overview of all the lots that have been sold to end users, anything held back for model locations. Go ahead and continue down. The outstanding assessment, again, this is where we detail on each phase what the total outstanding assessment is, and then we break it out on a per lot amount. So each resident can see exactly what their outstanding assessment is on their property. We detail the annual installment that is due 1/31/2022. This is the total amount by phase of what will be placed on the county tax bill. But again, we break it out in more detail in Exhibit A. So if you can continue down. This prepayment of assessment in full, so you can see within North Glen here, we've had one property has prepaid their assessment in full. You can see all their details, exactly when they prepaid. We're still going through the process of getting that final lien release filed with the counties. And so once we have that recorded, you'll see that updated each year, but this year it just says pending. You can continue down. Then you see there's partial prepayment of assessments. Residents also have the ability to partially prepay if they so chose. If that were to happen, we would capture it here as well. And then the next section is the budget. So you can see we've gone through, we're pretty much done with phase 1. I believe we're about to begin moving into phase 2 here relatively soon. You can see we detailed the dollars that have actually been spent and the construction completion based on that budget. And we make sure that that budget is accurate each year, but this just gives you an overview of where we're at with the actual budget and dollars that have been spent to date on the project. So you can continue down. This is that 5-year service plan that I referenced earlier, where it breaks out the principal, interest, and administrative expenses that we expect to be put on the county tax bill each year for the next 5 years. Again, that 5 years is stipulated by the statute. So this is where you're fulfilling that requirement and showing your projected indebtedness that you're going to be collecting for. And then your last section is your assessment rule, which essentially states these assessments are due January 31st of next year. And you can see them in more details. We can continue down into Exhibit A. This is really the most important part of the entire SAP update. You can see here every single property ID, phase, what lot type the property is, any additional notes. We have that at the bottom of the assessment roll, but then those last 2 columns are your really important ones. You have your outstanding assessment and the annual installment that is going to be due that year on each property. Now, as what we offer as your PID administrator, we want to make sure that this information is widely available to your residents. So we have a website, p3-works.com, where we manage a database of every single property that is located within a PID within the city of Haslet. Residents can go onto that website. They can search for their specific property, either by their property ID or by their street address as well. and they can see detailed information about their annual installment, what their outstanding assessment is, and then they can also go view all the documents that are related to their specific district. And so they can go and look at that original service and assessment plan I mentioned earlier, and they can also see, we'll upload this SAP update to our system. So they'll be able to go and view all this updated project information each year and see those specific details. So that is always available to your residents. We also have a PID 101 and frequently asked questions on there. So if they needed to know more information, that is always available for them as well. So just wanted to point that out. You can scroll down a couple pages all the way through. So Exhibit B, this is your template homebuyer disclosure that I mentioned earlier. So if you have a resident that is going to go close on their home, this is the document that's being provided to them by the home builders. So it details what their remaining outstanding assessment is that they're responsible for, discloses to them that they are within a PID, and then most importantly is the third page, if you'll continue to scroll down. Right here is the projected annual installment for that specific lot type. So within this particular development, there's only one lot type, so it's just if you're within phase 1, here's what your projected annual installment is. So we have a breakout of each year, the remaining life of the PID, what are they projected to pay in principal, interest, and administrative expenses were they not to prepay their assessment in full. So this gives a much better picture of not just what's your outstanding assessment, but if you were to make this your forever home and live here for the next 30 years, what really is coming out of your pocket. And so this document right here is really what helps a future resident of your city make an informed decision when they are moving into a PID. So you can continue down. This Exhibit C details the total annual installments that are being collected. So if you take all those properties, you lump them into one chart. Here's the principal and interest that is being paid. This one, again, is a reimbursement agreement. So the developer is upfront covering the cost to install that public infrastructure, and then he's being paid back over time with principal and interest. So these Exhibit C's detail what those projected payments are over the remaining life of the PID. You can continue to scroll down to Exhibit D. So again, lastly, this is what I mentioned earlier of if a resident is to prepay their assessment in full, this is the form that we go and fill out on the city's behalf and then work with city staff to have them execute it and send it on to the county to be filed and recorded in the real property records. So we fill out this document if they were to prepay, just have some general information, and if you continue to scroll down, it gives the detailed summary of when the district was created and when the lien was placed on the property and evidence that they have prepaid their assessment in full. So the rest of that document, if you continue to scroll down, just details the rest of that. So you can see those recitals, and then it gets executed by the city, notarized, and this document is what gets sent off to the county to be filed and recorded in real property records. And that document is what's really important if a resident decides to go and sell their home and they're needing to prove that they no longer have this lien on their property for a PID assessment. That filed and recorded document that you have here is their evidence that they've paid that assessment in full and that lien no longer is on the property. So we work very closely with your city staff to provide that. So next steps, if you're wondering, after you if you choose to approve all these SAP updates, we take those assessment rolls that you see, we prepare them in the format that's required by the county. We send them to the county to be placed on that county tax bill. Again, the resident will see it as a separate jurisdiction code. So they'll see city, county, ISD, and then they'll also see the PID as well, so they can see what their annual installment due is that year. So we'll work with the county on getting that included on the tax bill. We'll upload that new detailed information to our website as well. And then as collection begins to happen each year, we prepare a monthly collection report and share that with city staff every single month until we are fully collected for the year. So you might just see me once a year at City Council approving these updates, but know that we are touching your documents at least once a month. We're interacting with your residents and your potential residents, title companies, realtors. We are really the face of the city when it comes to a PID. So anytime a resident contacts your city staff with a PID question, they get directed onto us. We provide them whatever information they need and whatever assistance they require. Again, we are an extension of city staff essentially, and so we are representing your residents, and so they're our number one priority, and so we want to make sure that that information is all available to them. So however we can help, we're always available to do that with city staff, and we're always making sure that things are moving forward smoothly with these PIDs. So any other questions I can answer?
Very good, Kyle.
That's Councilman Rob. If I could just make a comment. These not all of the expenses of a developer can be recaptured via PID. The enabling local government code chapter is very specific about what these recoverable expenses are. They have to be number one, applicable to all the residents of the district. They can't be for just the benefit of a few. I mean, the developer can do that, but he can't recover the cost. Also, one of the nice things about these is that it puts the city in a bargaining position with a developer that he might not have. And of course, these are desirable because it gives them a way to get reimbursed for some of his expenses. And so the city's is in a bargaining position to maybe get enhanced amenities or something, that they want from the developer, like design standards. For instance, the 2019 legislature took away the city's ability to mandate building materials, except for where they meet where they meet codes. But to say, we used to have a requirement for so much stone or masonry on the outside of buildings and developments, but you can't, they took that away from the cities to do that. So, but you can put it in a PID. You could say, okay, Mr. Developer, if you want the city to approve this PID, you have to agree to these design standards. And frankly, all the ones that we've have dealt with, at least the ones I've dealt with, are totally agreeable with that, because they want high quality development with high standards, for the builders that they sell to. So it's been, a good tool to have. That's all my comment.
Very good. Thank you. So I had one last question, just in general. Again, if the PID were not offered, as Councilmember Rob stated, we may not get, the enhanced quality of the home itself in design standard, but the developer would front the cost of the water, sewer, and roads, and maybe any features that they might, water features or anything that they might put out there would be a benefit or to the entire development residency. But they would upfront all that cost, and without a PID, they would roll that into the price per lot. Is that an accurate way to put that?
This is Councilman Rob. Yes, exactly. They would have to roll the cost, and then the home would be probably too expensive for for anyone to buy. But an example of that is the new One Street, One Belgrand, there's no pit on that. That developer is paying all those costs. And there are no design standards that we can enforce. And I don't know what those houses are going to look like. I hope they look nice, but we have no way to know.
Understood. Thank you, Councilman Ross.
I have a quick question in general also. Did any of these developers request for the half-acre lot to be reduced in order for them to come in and build with those PIDs? Was that one of their conditions?
I would have to point to city staff or other council members for that.
Well, so I think I can answer that. I would say every one of them would like to have multiple price points, as they point out. Not so much on the houses, but on the lot size, because they all want quality, expensive houses. But on lot size, yes, and there's a paragraph in the 2016 comprehensive plan that allows for negotiation on that, so long as there's no more than 2 lots per acre, looking at the overall density. I know some of you don't agree with that, but that's what it said. And so they have used that. The developer in North Glen initially asked for smaller lots, but was denied and went ahead with the development. So that was, and you know, I think we all supported that. If they all want to build half-acre lots, I'm all for it. But if they don't, if they feel like they need variety in order to complete the subdivision and be able to sell the units in it, then they wanted, you know, some negotiation and room to do that. And, you know, that paragraph in the comprehensive plan gave the city the freedom to negotiate.
Very good. If there's not any more questions, if we could go ahead and go to 7J.
Mayor and Council, this is Kathy Brandon at 213 Bain. I didn't sign up to speak on this, but I do have a question. May I ask that?
Please go ahead.
I was just wondering, with the CDC's rule on being able to hold off on rent and mortgage payments because of COVID, does the administrator anticipate having to process foreclosures and have difficulty in collecting this amount of money?
Paul, I think that might be yours.
Sure. So the PID assessment is collected and treated in a similar manner to property taxes. However, the property tax exemptions that you see on other property taxes like homestead do not apply to that property tax, because you are paying for principal and interest either to pay back a reimbursement agreement in full or to pay principal and interest on bonds that the city has issued. So we cannot, the statute doesn't allow those exemptions to be applied. But I can tell you, we prepare those monthly collection reports, and we've gone through a cycle of this, and we have not seen any problem in collections or people not paying the paid annual installments. But the annual installment is subject to the same penalties, interest, and foreclosure proceedings as property taxes.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Council, we have this is item 7J, as I recall. Is that correct? So we have the 2021 SAP update for North Carolina ordinance and 2021 PID 3 North Carolina SAP update final.
This is Mayor Pro Tem Mara. I'll make a motion if everybody's ready.
We're ready.
Okay, I move to approve ordinance number 009-2021, approving the annual service and assessment plan update for Haslet Public Improvement District Number 3, Northland.
All right, motion has been made. Is there a second? And IT, I need to be able to read the agenda item, make sure I can read that ordinance number.
This is Councilman Rob. I'll second.
There is a second. And this is on ordinance number 009-2021, approving the annual service and assessment plan update for Haslet Public Improvement District Number 3. There's any further discussion. If not, I'll call roll call vote. Mayor Pro Tem Morrow.
Aye.
Councilmember Clark.
Aye.
Councilmember Robb.
Aye.
Councilmember Ricketts.
Aye.
Councilmember Nahara.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0. Item 7K, discuss, consider, and act on ordinance number 010-2021, approving the annual service and assessment plan update for Haslet Improvement District Number 4, Regal Ridge. Any questions on this one, council? If not, I'll call for the vote by roll call.
You need a motion.
I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm jumping the gun, aren't I? Do I have a motion, please?
This is Mayor Pro Tem Rob. I'll move that we approve ordinance number, let me make sure I got it right, 010-2021, approving the annual service and assessment plan update for Haslet Public Improvement District Number 4, Regal Ridge.
Is there a second?
It's Councilmember Ricketts. I'll second.
All right, motion's been made and seconded to approve ordinance number 010-2021, approving the annual service and assessment plan update to the Haslet Public Improvement District Number 4. Is there any more discussion? If not, a roll call vote. Mayor Pro Tem Morrow.
Aye.
Councilmember Clark.
Aye. Aye.
Councilmember Nahara.
Aye.
Councilmember Ricketts.
Aye.
Councilmember Robb.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0. Item number 7L, discuss and consider act on ordinance number 011-2021, approving the annual service and assessment plan update for Haslet Public Improvement District Number 5, Latera. Any questions on this, council? If not, could I have a motion?
This is Councilmember Robb again. I move to approve ordinance number 011-2021, approving the annual service and assessment plan update for Haslet Public Improvement District Number 5, Latera. And I just like to point out that, because on the last meeting, we talked about appointing members to the PID subcommittee. Well, this past week, the PID subcommittee met for about 2.5 hours to review all of these so that you wouldn't have to spend 2.5 hours tonight doing it. So just wanted to give you an idea of what that was about.
Thank you. Very good. We appreciate that subcommittee's work. Is there a second?
This is Councilmember Clark, a second.
There's a second. Is there any further discussion? I'll do a roll call vote. Mayor Pro Tem Morrow.
Aye.
Councilmember Clark.
Aye.
Councilmember Robb.
Aye.
Councilmember Nahara. Councilmember Nahara.
Aye.
Councilmember Ricketts.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0. 7M, item 7M. Discuss, consider, and act on ordinance number 012-2021, approving the annual service and assessment plan update for Haslet Public Improvement District number 6, Caraway. Council, do you have any questions? Could I have a motion, please?
Councilmember Robb, I move that we approve ordinance number 012-2021, approving the annual service and assessment plan update for Haslet Public Improvement District number 6, Caraway.
A motion is made. Is there a second?
It's Councilmember Ricketts. I'll second.
There is a second. Any further discussion? If not, I'll call for the vote. Roll call. Mayor Pro Tem Morrow.
Aye.
Councilmember Clark.
Aye.
Councilmember Robb.
Aye.
Councilmember Nahara.
Aye.
Councilmember Ricketts.
Aye.
Very good. Motion passes 5-0. Our next item, 7O, is at the top of the page.
Mr. Mayor, 7N.
7N.
I can't see 7N. Oh, there it is. I got it. It was my screen. I'm sorry. 7N, discuss, consider, and act on ordinance number 013-2021, approving the annual service and assessment plan update for Haslet Public Improvement District number 7, Watercress. Is there any questions that you have, council? If not, could I get a motion, please?
This is Councilmember Robb. I'll go again. I move that we approve ordinance number 013-2021, approving the annual service and assessment plan update for Haslet Public Improvement District number 7, Water.
Very good. Is there a second?
It's Councilmember Ricketts. I'll second.
There is a second. Any further discussion? All right, we'll call for the vote. Roll call. Mayor Pro Tem Morrow.
Aye.
Councilmember Clark.
Aye.
Councilmember Robb.
Aye.
Councilmember Nahara.
Aye.
Councilmember Ricketts.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0. Item 7O, discuss, consider, and act on ordinance 014-2021, requiring fire flow meters for connections in the extraterritorial jurisdiction. And do we have, I think this is, who's this from, Mr. Rogers?
Yeah, he's not here. Let's go with,
I can explain it if you, or Mr. Quinn,
No, I'm
anybody?
here.
oh, you're there?
I'm
Mr.
battery
Rogers.
dead on my other deal, so I'm still here.
Okay.
Yeah, this is proposed ordinances because we've had a large increase in development within our ETJ. And of course, being in the ETJ, they don't pay any taxes or anything, but they're all coming in needing fire protection systems within these properties. And from our standpoint, we should have some way to meter those flows because they do have to be tested and, put in service every year. So we felt like we should have some way to recapture that, since they're not going to be paying any city taxes or any other city costs other than just regular water for their standard water meter for their businesses.
So this would go on meters for their fire flow, is that correct?
Yes, this would go on a fire line leading into the property for their, some of them are going to be fire loops, some are dead ends, but they're just fire lines within those properties.
And these are rated meters for fire hydrants, correct?
Yes, these are specifically meters that are set up specifically for nothing but fire flow. They're made to be, they're kind of that kind of use. They're made for a big high flow use and then nothing.
So one of the things that was just Mr. Rogers described to me is, so this would go out with the where the fire or the fire hydrants are. Is that correct, Mr. Rogers?
It would go where their backflow assemblies will be for these facilities.
Oh, that's correct. That's correct. I'm sorry. So that's interest to the property. Otherwise, they could flow water, not to say that they would, but they could flow water for their fire system and we would never know it.
Right. They could use them for any reason they wanted to, because their hydrants would be on private property. We would never really know that they were using them.
So this gives us the ability to record that flow. Do we charge them for the flow?
Yes, we would be metering and charging for this. The only time you might consider otherwise not charging is if they actually truly did have a fire event. But for their annual testing of their systems, they would be paying for that.
Who would pay for the meter?
The customer would. They're the ones requesting the connection to our system. They would pay for the meter.
Understood. Council, do you have any questions?
Yeah, this is Councilman Rob. Yeah, on the charges, I think it in the this somewhere references the fee schedule. So we would need a change to the fee schedule, would we not? Or is it already, or is that kind of a charge already delineated in the fee schedule?
They would follow our current fee schedule, because we do have a fee schedule that includes properties in the ETJ who do pay a higher rate because they are not residents or citizens of the city of Haslet. They just do not have to on these kind of connections, because they don't technically have a standard impact. They wouldn't be an impact fee assessed to these kind of connections.
Mayor, this is Rob. Could I try to answer Councilmember Rob's question with a little additional information?
Go ahead, please, Mr. Albon.
Thank you, sir. In addition to what David addressed the actual cost of the water, but I think your question, Councilman Rob, was about a statement in the ordinance that says fire flow meter will be installed at the fee established in the city's fee schedule. The fee schedule does not need to be amended, as I understand it. I asked that question when I drafted this ordinance. Current fee schedule says that the requesting owner pays the cost of the meter, the actual cost of the meter, plus a fee that's set out based on the size of the line. And I was told by city staff that that was adequate and we didn't need to amend the fee schedule to otherwise address this. Unless somebody has a different response to that now, that was my understanding.
No, Rob, that's correct.
Let me ask this, Mr. Rogers, is that they pay for the meter. Do they pay for the time it takes employees to make that installation? Is that built into the cost of the meter?
Yes, no, our ordinance does allow us to charge not only for the meter, but the cost, all associated costs for installation of that meter. The only other option they have is if they themselves prefer to install it and us inspect it.
Understood. Council, you have any questions? If not, could I get a motion, please? Not everybody at once.
This
This is,
council, go ahead, Tanya.
This is Mayor Pro Tem Morrow. I would like to make a motion to approve the amendment of ordinance 013-2010.
Motion is made to approve ordinance 013-2010. Is there a second?
I just have a quick question. Do we need to, so the original ordinance is 013-2010. Do we need to state in the motion that the amendment is 014-2021?
That's a good point, Mayor. If you're okay with that, I would recommend that the motion be amended to approve ordinance 014-2021.
Yes, I will make that change.
Okay, so the motion is amended to, where is that number at? What sheet? Here it is. This is ordinance number 014-2021. The motion has been revised to reflect that number of 014-2021. Am I correct?
That's correct.
Okay, is there a second?
This is Councilmember Clark. I'll second.
There is a second. Any further discussion? I'll call for the vote. Roll call. Mayor Pro Tem Morrow.
Aye.
Councilmember Clark.
Aye.
Councilmember Robb.
Aye.
Councilmember Nahara.
Aye.
Councilmember Ricketts.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0. Executive session, we have no need for executive session, nor in 8A. Item 9, take any action. We have no action here from executive session. Any future agenda items? I have on my list so far is the duties and roles of the mayor. Is that correct? Councilman Robb?
No, well, it was larger than that. It's what's a little what you got into this evening. The roles and responsibilities of elected and appointed officials in a Type A general law city.
Very good. Got it noted. Also, we on this council member, or excuse me, Mayor Pro Tem Morrow, do you desire that we have the strategic plan on the next meeting? I would might like to make this suggestion is that each council person study that plan. And I think that might take several weeks to study the plan, to understand it fully.
Yes, it's Mayor Pro Tem Morrow. I agree. It was just more about informational and getting the document in front of people before budgets. That was my intention.
Very good. So let's encourage each other to study that plan diligently and come back with your own, I guess, markups. How about that, Mayor Pro Tem?
Yes, or at some point later, I'm sure we will probably have a more detailed discussion or workshop. So sounds good to me.
So any other agenda items? We have one so far.
This Councilmember Clark. At the last council meeting, I had mentioned in the future agenda items having a recurring item for status for the city secretary position. And I didn't know if maybe, I noticed it's not on this agenda, so I don't know if maybe I need to clarify that. I'd kind of hoped that it would be seen as similar to the agenda item we used to have during COVID, that staff could give updates on that item like it would recur on every single agenda, but staff would get updates on it as needed. So some meetings maybe we don't have an update, sometimes we do. And when I say staff, that's, you know, Mr. Quinn or the mayor.
Understood, and we'll have it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other items? All right, if not, we'll go to item 11. Can I have a motion to adjourn?
Councilman Robin, move to adjourn.
Move to adjourn. Is there a second?
This is Councilmember Clark, I'll second.
There is a second. Call for the vote. Mayor Pro Tem Morrow,
Aye.
Councilmember Clark,
Aye.
Councilmember Robb,
Aye.
Councilmember Nahira,
Aye.
Councilmember Ricketts.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0. This meeting is adjourned. I thank everybody, all those helping us run the meeting and everybody that's attended, and thank you, council. Have a good night.
Good night, everyone.
Right.